6 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. If I could ask everyone to please take their seats, we're going to try to get started here. Good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order. And Melissa, are you going to do the land acknowledgement tonight?
Yes, Mayor. The West Hollywood City Council acknowledges that the land on which we gather, and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood, is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and Gabrielino Kizh peoples.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and call to the meeting to order. And I believe that Jonah is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Is Jonah Faria here? There you are. Awesome. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great job, Jonah. Thank you so much. Madam City Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Byers.
Here.
Councilmember Erickson.
Here.
Councilmember Meister.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hang.
Here.
Mayor Howman.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Now we'll turn to the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes from staff?
No, Mayor, there are no changes from staff.
There was a correction on one item that has been circulated and posted, I understand?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any changes from my colleagues? Any items that we might want to move to the consent calendar? All right, I see Councilmember Erickson is eager to attempt this.
Item F1, the review of high-frequency towing locations.
F1.
It's your item.
Oh, yes, I'm fine with that. Sorry.
Not if that sweetens the pot. Okay, great. The F2, Councilmember Meister's, expansion of contracted shelter and veterinary services for unsheltered animals.
No objection. We'll move that to consent.
F3, fire disaster preparedness for residents and businesses in very high fire hazard severity zones.
No objection. I believe that the city attorney is giving me that look like she has to interject something.
I'll just note for the record that recommendation 4 on that item has been updated, and that was the item you had mentioned, Mr. Mayor, that had an updated recommendation posted.
Correct. Okay.
Yep. And if people read that recommendation, it's maybe important. F4. No, F4. Maybe add your comments later.
Okay.
It'd be important, but it's, I think, good.
F4 is your item. Do anyone have objection to moving F4 to consent? Okay, we'll move F4 to consent. Are there any other potential changes to the agenda? Is there a possibility of moving E2 to consent?
I have a process question about it, more so than anything.
Okay.
I support it, but I just have a question.
Let's leave it on the agenda then. Okay. Any other changes? Hearing none, I'd entertain.
May I, E1?
Which one is
the
it?
rent I mean, I don't know if we have to read any of that into the record. Okay.
Yeah, and there are a number of speakers on that.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended. There's a motion. There's a second.
Got it.
Can we call the roll? Vice Mayor. All right, it's approved. We have an agenda. Thank you, everyone. We'll now turn to any Levine Act disclosures. Do any of my colleagues have any disclosures tonight? Seeing none, we can move on to adjournment motions. Are there any adjournment motions? I was given one at the last minute for a longtime resident who died on July 4th, Richard Albertelli. We'll get additional information, but he lived here in the city for over 40 years. And thank you, Rick, for sharing that information with us. All right, we'll turn to presentations. We have a number of presentations. We'll try to get through those quickly tonight. Vice Mayor, are you ready with yours?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. In honor of July being Disability Pride Month, a month to celebrate the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, the city would like to honor the Disability Community Resource Center, DCRC. For 50 years, the DCRC has advanced independence, accessibility, and inclusion for people with disabilities through peer-led services that support aging in place and full participation in community life. Thank you, DCRC, for your long-time commitment to this city and to its residents. I'd like to invite David Kriskal, DCRC's Community Programs Manager, to come up to the dais to accept this recognition from the city and to take a photo with the council.
Well, this is really thrilled to receive this proclamation. I believe it's our second one. And I also manage our City of Santa Monica program, and we've received one from the City of Santa Monica, so I'm really, really touched. Can I just grab my notes?
Yeah.
You have to do it from memory.
So for those virtually or behind me, so I'm David Kruskal, the Community Program Manager at Disability Community Resource Center. As you've mentioned, this is our 50th anniversary providing independent living services to the Los Angeles community, and here in my case, to the City of West Hollywood residents. It's really been a thrill. I'm also excited to share that we're going into our 10th year with our successful contract. It's really, really hard to believe, but it's been 10 years, and we've helped hundreds and hundreds of West Hollywood residents with independent living skills, such things as assistive technology, connecting folks to caregivers through in-home supportive services, home modifications, and our newest service since October 1st for this fiscal year, providing emergency assistance for folks. They apply for assistance such as rental assistance, security deposits, could be a utility bill that they're behind on, could be car repair, medical and dental bills that aren't covered by insurance. We do assist with that. And everyone's favorite are Ralph's gift cards, food cards, gas cards, and also Target gift cards. It's really helped a tremendous amount of people. Every Friday, I have a staff, sometimes two staff, that are at the Aquatic Center, Recreation Center. It's a beautiful state-of-the-art building you folks have. And they're there every Friday providing services to West Hollywood members. I want to thank not only my Executive Director, TJ Hill, at Disability Community Resource Center, but also our wonderful West Hollywood Program Administrator, Michelle Lindeman. I know you're watching. Thank you so much for all your ongoing support. Thank you, Mayor Heilman, and the entire City Council. I really appreciate this honor. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to go ahead and present a certificate of recognition for everybody's favorite leader of the Pledge of Allegiance, Jonah Faria, who did an outstanding job. We can't do that again. It's hard to get back up off the ground. And we have some outstanding athletes that we're going to recognize tonight that represented West Hollywood in the Gay Games. And I think Councilmember Erickson is going to start with WH2O.
Yes, thank you. And we won't kneel again. We're all aging in place, to say the least. But who's not aging in place is all the Olympians from the Gay Games. And special shout out to my dear friend Jamie. I got to watch you live. I know I'm not your proclamation giver, but I get to do West Hollywood H2O. But the 2026 Gay Games were recently hosted in Valencia, Spain from June 27th to July 4th. And I'm so proud, and I know we all are so proud of the teams and athletes that went and represented our great, amazing city. Tonight, I'd like to honor the West Hollywood Aquatic Swim and Water Polo teams, WH2O, with a proclamation for its numerous achievements. And I just gotta say, when we were kind of going back and forth on emails, the lists of how people did was like it was incredible. So like too many to name, but I know Justin in the back is working on getting you like all the things for individuals, so you'll be getting them. So we just have one tonight, but congrats. But many of the team's individual swimmers medaled, and several of its teams had high placements, which allowed the team to come in second place overall in swimming and first place in water polo. So what an amazing achievement. Congratulations. I would now like to invite everyone from WH2O up to the whatever we call this thing and take a photo with all of us.
Which mic? Mic, is it this mic? Hi. All good? Perfect. Hi, City Council. My name is Connor Matthews from West Hollywood. I've been on the West Hollywood Aquatics team for 6 years and have swam for WH2O at international competitions in London, Guadalajara, Mexico, and now Valencia, Spain. I'd like to thank the City Council for honoring the team's accomplishments at the Valencia Gay Games. This year, WH2O sent 80 athletes to Valencia, 60 swimmers and 20 water polo members. The largest Gay Games delegation our team has sent in over 30 years. Wow. Interestingly, the WH2O's delegation includes athletes who live all over the country and the world, from San Francisco, Palm Springs, Mexico, Colombia, Chicago to Boston, and more. They choose to compete with West Hollywood Aquatics because of our team's spirit. A healthy balance between having fun and knowing when to turn it on in the pool. I love meeting people and showing them photos of our pool and inviting them to swim with us if they're ever in Los Angeles. We're truly proud to represent the spirit of West Hollywood as ambassadors on an international stage. And on that note, I turn the mic over to Mike Crosby.
Thank you, Connor. Hi, I'm Mike Crosby, water polo coach for West Hollywood Aquatics. I've been on our team for 25 years and have proudly competed in water polo and swimming at 6 Gay Games and 14 International Gay and Lesbian Aquatics Championships, representing WeHo all over the world. I wanted to, on behalf of our team, thank you, the City Council, for supporting our team year after year. Your beautiful pool that opened 4 years ago is a big part of our success, and I enjoy swimming in it 3 or 4 times every week. The cost is reasonable and really allows us to be competitive with team dues, attracting athletes across ages and backgrounds. The staff is also friendly and professional, and we all hope we get the sport of water polo playing for the first time in that pool very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, soccer has been in the news recently. I think people know that. And Chelsea is going to present a proclamation to the West Hollywood Soccer Club.
That's right. What an amazing night we have. We get to recognize another West Hollywood club that did an incredible job competing in the Gay Games, the West Hollywood Soccer Club. They had several teams medal in a variety of different divisions, and we should all be very proud of them. In particular, I'd like to point out that Team Rockets, the women's and non-binary team, were gold medal champions in 3 different divisions, y'all. I think that's history, right? It's absolutely incredible. Congratulations. And also shout out Team Eclipse earned a silver medal in their division as well. And we know the club sent over 60 athletes over to Valencia, Spain. And I'm sure the president, Ken, is very happy that Spain won the championship, the World Cup as well. But congratulations to our West Hollywood Soccer Club and all the clubs that competed. But we're just so grateful for the way that you elevate the city's name and you bring us pride and you send people to have opportunities to compete in these games. And we know it takes a tremendous amount of work and organizing and community to make that happen. So congratulations on all your achievements and thanks for letting us celebrate you.
We should have had you kneel like we do in soccer pictures, but you already did it once. So, good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the community. My name is Ken Sanchez. I'm the president of the West Hollywood Soccer Club, and I'm honored to be joined tonight by representatives of the teams that competed at the 2026 Gay Games in Valencia, Spain. As Council Member Byers mentioned, we sent over 60 athletes, also the largest ever soccer contingency to go from West Hollywood to a Gay Games. On behalf of our entire organization, thank you for recognizing our club and celebrating what our athletes accomplished on the international stage. Our women's non-binary team, the Rockets, achieved an extraordinary gold medal sweep, winning all 3 divisions, while our men's all-gender team, the Eclipse, earned a hard-fought silver medal against world-class competition. Additionally, our men's all-gender fusion and Suns teams also had impressive showings, reaching the quarterfinals and the round of 16, respectively. The tournament featured 92 soccer teams, from across the globe, including the United States, Canada, Mexico, England, France, Australia, the Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland, Spain, Ireland, Argentina, and Brazil. Over 4 days, our club played 52 matches and only lost 9.
Whoa.
Those results are something we're incredibly proud of. But what means even more is how our players carried themselves throughout the tournament, with authenticity, friendship, inclusion, and respect. Together, we showcase the diversity that makes West Hollywood so special, representing not only this city, but the greater Los Angeles region with pride. Thank you again for this incredible honor and for your continued support of our club. We look forward to continuing to represent West Hollywood with excellence, both on and off the field. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last proclamation tonight is one for the West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation. 40 years ago, the West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation was created as an organization dedicated to expanding affordable housing opportunities in the city of West Hollywood. WHCHC has been building affordable housing not only in West Hollywood, but throughout the region for 40 years. It built one of the first projects for people living with HIV. It pioneered the concept of resident services and in permanent supportive housing, integrating support services along with affordable housing. West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation has also been at the vanguard of universal design principles, aging in place principles, and environmentally sustainable development. Today, West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation operates 15 affordable housing communities in West Hollywood alone, with 2 additional developments underway, collectively serving more than 550 residents and contributing profoundly to the city's commitment to housing equity and inclusion. Also, I want to note, as many of you know, when I was sworn in as mayor, I agreed that I was going to donate my mayoral salary to various organizations, and West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation is going to get one of those donations tonight. So please join me, everyone, in congratulating West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation and thanking them for all of their years of service in building affordable housing for people in West Hollywood.
Well, thank you so much for this proclamation, and Mr. Mayor for the donation as well. It's incredibly generous of you, and we really appreciate it. My name is Carl Lott, and I'm the board chair of WHCHC and a longtime resident of West Hollywood. I've been here since 1985, 5, I think. And John, I've known you for many years, and we really appreciate all that you have done to support affordable housing throughout the years. You stole my thunder with your speech. I was going to say a lot of the things you already said. But you were very instrumental at the time of the founding of the city of West Hollywood. One of your first acts was the creation of West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation. So we've been in existence now since the early days of the city of West Hollywood. We built affordable housing projects throughout the city. You mentioned a number of them here. We've expanded now, and we have projects also in other cities, as far away as Palm Springs now. In addition to the 550 residents in our communities in West Hollywood, the total number of people who we have housed now is 1,700 people, and we hope to double that number as quickly as we can. This proclamation is very meaningful for us. Continuing to provide affordable housing is a challenge that we all continue to face. It's hard, it's getting harder, and the support from the City Council of West Hollywood has really been meaningful to us and helped us do what we do. So thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, normally we would turn to public comment, but I'm going to go a little bit out of order tonight. As you know, we had a serious water main break on Thursday, and a number of people would like to get an update. And so I'm going to turn it to our city manager, and she's going to give her report, which will include an update on the water main break here in the city of West Hollywood. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Jackie.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the West Hollywood community. I'd like to provide an update on the LADWP main water break update. As you know, this water main break occurred last Thursday, July 16th, affecting the Sunset Strip and surrounding neighborhoods. First, we recognize the significant disruption that this incident has caused to our residents, businesses, and visitors. We appreciate everyone's patience as recovery continues. From the beginning, LADWP has been leading the response and repair effort, and we thank its crews working around the clock. We're also grateful that no injuries were reported and that West Hollywood's water supply has remained safe throughout this entire incident, and that's critically important. Today, LADWP reported that repairs have continued and they have completed a critical repair of their main line and has begun the repressurizing the transmission line while conducting final inspections. Before the line can be returned to service, it has to be tested and verified to meet all safety standards, and crews will then begin the restoration of Sunset Boulevard. The city has remained focused on supporting those affected, and over the weekend, we hosted a virtual community meeting with residents led by our Mayor Hallman, LADWP representatives, Athens Services, other council members that were able to join us virtually, and city staff to answer questions and connect people with claims, temporary housing, and other necessary resources. LADWP has secured nearly 80 hotel rooms in nearby hotels for displaced residents, and the city has extended suspension of residential parking enforcement in effect in the affected area through 7 a.m. on Wednesday, July 22nd. We also have increased security in the area, and we have posted security ambassadors 24/7 to ensure that all these residences remain safe and that residents know that we are there to support them during this period. Additionally, to keep everyone informed for the latest updates and available resources, we do encourage everyone to please visit www.weho.org/water main break. Residents needing assistance may email safety@weho.org, and businesses may contact business@weho.org. And we encourage that you visit these websites because we are providing updates throughout the day as information becomes available on the progress of the repairs. And we also want to thank our partners at LADWP for their extraordinary work, as well as the Los Angeles County Fire Department, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Athens Services, LA Mayor Karen Bass, LA County Supervisor Lindsay Horvath, and our many city employees from Public Works, Community Safety, Parking, Building and Safety, Economic Development, Communications, and Human Services and Rent Stabilizations, as well as a major thank to our hotels that have extended very generous discount rates to the residents that have been impacted by this incident. So we thank them for their support. And we thank all that have been working tirelessly throughout this response. While there is still work ahead, please rest assured that the city remains committed to supporting our community every step of the way, and we will continue to provide timely updates at weho.org, water main break. And I encourage you to visit our website. I think we also have these cards that have been printed and are available throughout city facilities. And please do not hesitate to contact the city for any information or assistance that we can provide. And Mayor, I just have 3 other brief updates. One is on our seismic retrofit grant program. The West Hollywood.
Jackie, before you do that, can everyone give a round of applause to our city manager who's been out here all weekend long, and our incredible city staff, Helen, Steve, Danny Rivas. So many people have been out here all weekend long just working to try to make sure that our residents have what they need. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
All right, you want to complete your report. Thank you.
Of course. Our seismic retrofit grant program is coming to an end in September, and new funding opportunities will become available for property owners of multi-family residential buildings through CalQuake's Earthquake Multi-Unit Retrofit Program, EMR. This program is expected to launch on August 19th and will be open to residential buildings with 5 to 10 units. Information will be posted on the Building and Safety's seismic webpage at weho.org/seismic as it becomes available. And I'm happy to report that National Night Out, we invite you all to join the National Night Out events on Tuesday, August 4th. As you know, this annual event strengthens community camaraderie and promotes public safety through neighborhood gatherings across the city. It's an amazing opportunity to connect with your neighbors, and as all of you know that have participated, a great opportunity to join in great celebrations throughout the city. For details and locations, please visit www.weho.org/NNO or contact the Community Safety Department at safety@weho.org. And I also want to provide a brief update on SB 35. The California Department of Housing and Community Development has recently determined that West Hollywood must now offer the state's SB 35 streamlined ministerial approval process to eligible housing development projects. Under state law, cities that fall short of their housing production targets under the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, or RHNA, must provide this ministerial review option. The city permitted less than half of its goal of 3,933 housing units during the first half of the current RHNA cycle. The state's ministerial process is optional for applicants, and only projects that meet several criteria under state law may opt into the streamlined process. And we encourage anyone that has questions or need additional information about this program to please contact our Community Development Department at weho.org/CDD. And Mayor, this concludes my report, and if you have any questions, I'm here.
Yes, Councilmember Erickson has a question.
Thank you, Jackie. I just got an email from a resident regarding the left-hand turn signal, well, non-left-hand turn signal at Sunset and San Vicente. because of all the increased traffic up there and obviously because of all the congestion that has been caused as shutting down that major route. I don't know if it's possible for our Public Works Department to kind of go out there and fast track whatever type of signal could be installed or any temporary mechanism. It is, I think, from a big public safety issue if cars are going to crash into each other while they're trying to make a left-hand turn, because there is none currently. But if something could be explored, I think that would be really helpful to help alleviate a little bit of the issues up there at the camp. And a long-term fix, if I must say so myself.
Yes, of course. No, thank you for informing us, and we will definitely follow up. And any questions or concerns, if you do contact our Public Works Department, we will immediately respond. And we are working closely with LADWP at this time to identify the closures and any kind of modifications that can be made. We know this is very impactful, and we are cognizant that safety is the #1 concern as these repairs are underway, but we also want to work closely with them and with our engineering team to make sure that if there's room for any adjustments, that we take those into consideration as quickly as possible.
Great. Thank you. We'll now turn to public comment. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Melissa, how many speakers do we have in chambers, and do we have any on Zoom?
I have 17 individuals in chambers and no one in Zoom this evening.
This period is limited to 20 minutes. It's likely we're not going to get through everyone. We will try our best. I would ask people, if somebody has already said what you want to say, please abbreviate your comments. We are going to start with David Nash and Rick Watts, to be followed by Tom DeMille.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here tonight to speak to you. I'm speaking to you officially tonight as the chairman of the Disabilities Advisory Board. Excuse me 1 minute while I straighten out my notes. We are concerned about the delivery scooters or the delivery robots that are on our streets, the electronic bicycles and the electronic scooters. There are some issues that we hope you can deal with in the near future. I've gotten quite an education researching this, and I know that your contract with Lime is about to be renewed in February. And there are some technologies and new things that have been brought to my attention, new words that I haven't heard of before, like geofencing and computer vision. I didn't even know what they were until I researched this project. But in Santa Monica, they're already using some of these systems to control the situation. Two of these issues I think could be knocked out. The use of the scooters and bikes on our sidewalk can be controlled and monitored by this geofencing and camera technology. They can be slowed to a halt on the sidewalk, thereby eliminating the need for enforcement and penalizing people that are improperly using them, as they are illegal on our sidewalks, the scooters and the bikes. They also can control where you park, even as far away as Spain. They have incorporated a technology that allows them to keep billing the user of the scooter or bicycle if it's not reparked properly in an appropriate place. I have my associate from the Disability Advisory Board who's going to follow me and read a letter that we've carefully worked on with Michelle Oberman. I'd like to just let you know that we hope you hear us, and we hope that there are some conservative changes. Cities like Toronto in Canada have completely banned robotic food delivery in their city. Also, Knoxville, Tennessee has completely banned them. In San Francisco, they are very restrictive, and I believe only allow 9 scooters. I turn it over to Rick to read our letter.
Thank you, David. Rick?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council, Mayor. Rick Watts, City of West Hollywood, and member of the Disabilities Advisory Board. So the letter that was prepared for us to read, and that I have been asked to read, is as follows. Dear members of the West Hollywood City Council, I am speaking today on behalf of the West Hollywood Disabilities Advisory Board. The board has consistently raised concerns regarding delivery robots, e-scooters, bikes, and other devices obstructing sidewalks and pedestrian pathways. This issue remains a priority and directly aligns with our adopted 2026 work plan under the mobility, transportation, and public right-of-way access. While we support innovation and sustainable transportation, accessibility and public safety must remain paramount. For people with disabilities, older adults, individuals with mobility, vision, hearing, cognitive, intellectual, developmental, sensory, or other disabilities, clear and unobstructed sidewalks are essential for safe, independent travel. Board members and community members continue to report delivery robots, parked e-scooters, e-bikes, and other devices blocking sidewalks, curb ramps, and pedestrian access routes. These obstructions create significant barriers for persons using wheelchairs, walkers, canes, service animals, and other mobility aids, forcing them into streets or traffic to continue their route. We respectfully urge the City Council to review current policies, permitting requirements, and enforcement practices to ensure sidewalks and public rights-of-way to remain safe, accessible, and unobstructed for everyone. The Disabilities Advisory Board also respectfully opposes any expansion in the number of permitted delivery robots in the city until meaningful accessibility protections, enforcement mechanisms, and demonstrated compliance can ensure that sidewalks remain fully accessible and safe for all residents and visitors, particularly people with disabilities and older adults.
Thank you, Rick. Your time is up.
Thank you.
If you want, you can submit a copy of that letter, but I think it's already been sent to us. Thank you. Tom DeMille is our next speaker, to be followed by Steve Martin.
Yes. Test. My name is Tom DeMille.
Tom, hang on a second. We'll have somebody adjust the mic for you. Hang on a second. Somebody is coming. Rick, we have somebody here who can handle this.
Testing.
Apologize for that.
Tom DeMille, West Hollywood. Mr. Watts and Mr. Nash just described the last 2 years of my life. They did. Everything about my life has changed. You know, I guess delivery robots are going to be delivering, picking up laundry, and so next time you get a sandwich, watch out it doesn't taste like something else, because it's just in all this full disclosure, I have a lawsuit with Wilshire Law against them, and we're close to trial because I'm not settling. They must and they shall have a license plate that lights up at night. That's something that you can take a police report or a sheriff's report. Under these circumstances now, you cannot take a report. And if that kills one of your family members, or it hurts your dog, and so you have to spend thousands of dollars at a vet, then you can't make a report. That has to change. I want to thank Captain Fanny for giving my sheriff's pin. I earned this sheriff's pin back in 2002, and thank you very much. And it reminds me that the public safety is not just about whether the water main is going to break, and we had 6 during the weekend, 6. And so any water main, anytime, can just break our city anytime. To me, that's unacceptable. Public safety means that 36,000 of my fellow residents don't feel like they're shuttered in their homes and they're afraid to come out. Because I know you all are afraid to come out. And I feel for you, because every time I've been out the last couple of months, I've had the crap beat out of me. 4 police reports, 4 sheriff's reports. But, you know, in front of hundreds of people, to have you have the crap beat out of you is not only humbling, but it's humiliating. And it's just disgraceful that my community, my city of West Hollywood, allows public safety to be in such a disaster that it is now.
Thank you, Tom. Your time has expired. Steve Martin, to be followed by Kevin Burton, and then Liz Blackman.
I want to thank the council for co-sponsoring the AIDS Walk for the next 7 years. I'm sorry. Thank you, Jean. Steve Martin, an elderly gay homeowner in West Hollywood. I have to comment on Planning Commissioner Andrew Solomon's Instagram account comments about the testimony at Council and Planning Commission about SB 79. In his comments that he described the people opposing SB 79 as being hysterical, but he mostly focused his comments on the fact that he was shocked that it was opposed by elderly gay homeowners, which I suppose include me. I'm not quite sure why the word gay was necessary in his description. The majority of people that came to speak out, to my knowledge, were not gay, not that we're taking any polls, and the majority of people who are homeowners, certainly in this city of West Hollywood, are not gay. But it was very odd to be connected to a statement that said we were perpetuating racial segregation. I didn't know we were engaging in racial segregation, much less perpetuating it. But these comments were really irresponsible. And I don't understand why any commissioner would need to use the adjective gay in describing anyone who comes before the commission. It's not helpful, it's hurtful, and it infers that somehow gay members of this community are not deserving, or are entitled, or are frivolous. Now, it's not my job to call out Commissioner Solomon. Frankly, it's the job of the person that appointed him, which would be Chelsea Byers. And I would ask you to talk to Mr. Solomon and see if we can get rid of these disturbing comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Your time is up.
Mayor.
No, we're in public comment. Kevin Burton.
I have a question, though, Mayor, for the minutes when it's appropriate.
Sure. After public comment, yes. Kevin Burton, to be followed by Liz Blackman.
Good evening, Kevin Burton, City of West Hollywood. I want to comment on 2 items pulled to consent. One is item F1 having to do with signage, warning drivers that they might be towed certain areas of the city, and to draw the council's attention to one of those areas that was highlighted in the staff report, that is the 1000 block of La Brea Avenue in front of the WeHo Gateway. Large numbers of cars parked there illegally and are towed, although the number towed is a tiny fraction of the total. And I have communicated frequently with the parking enforcement officers there, and a significant problem is just that. The signage pointing drivers to the entrance to the garage for that shopping center, which is quite large, is totally inadequate. You don't actually see it till you get down the block if you're on La Brea going south, till you're almost to Romaine, which you have to make a turn on to find the entrance. By that time, people have pulled over and parked. And I've frequently observed parking enforcement officers pointing, talking to the driver who's in the car, and they pull out and they go down there. So signage needs to be installed near La Brea Avenue, and council should give clear direction for the need to that signage. Secondly, I also support item F3 having to do with communications advice to residents in high fire risk zones. Thank you, Councilmember Meister, for bringing that. But I think one of the topics that should be emphasized is how people will evacuate. Because in almost all major fires, there's always a group of people who are leaving at the last minute. If everybody tries to get in their car, leave the same time, they won't get out. So alternatives should be part of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Liz Blackman, to be followed by Eugene Maysky, and then Calvin Laird.
I'm speaking on the agenda item, Animal Services Expansion. Hello, City Council members. Thank you for addressing this urgent and important need. My name is Liz Blackman. I am a longtime West Hollywood resident and the founder, president of 1-800-HELP for Pets, a 24/7 nationwide emergency ID service for pets. Even as someone with an extensive list of rescue resources, I have experienced the same frustration and failure other residents have in getting help for animals in need in our community. Our city's current contracted entities too often do not offer the kind of help needed or are unreachable. On a number of occasions, I have found help when I needed it most from neighbors who run an all-volunteer cat rescue organization called West Hollywood Community Cats. I will describe two instances in particular in which the organization actually came to my rescue when I was trying to help two cats in desperate need in my neighborhood. The first occurred when a longtime West Hollywood resident passed away and left her landlord stranded with a very senior, very ornery tabby cat. I had accomplished what seemed near impossible, which was to find a wonderful sanctuary match for the cat. But the problem was safely capturing the largely unappreciative kitty so she could be transported. Renee and Mary Jo from West Hollywood Community Cats came to the landlords in my rescue with a humane cat trap, detailed instructions on how to use the trap, and very kind offer to come help coax the cat into the trap if needed. This generous, genuine offer literally saved the cat's life. I see I don't have much time left, so I'm going to just skip the other example. I realize it may seem a safer, more responsible choice to select a 501c3 rescue or licensed animal shelter with whom to partner for pet assistance in our city. But sometimes you simply need to think outside the cat box and work with people who literally live amongst us and who have a very personal interest in helping pets in their own community. It is my sincere hope that the City Council will give serious consideration to increasing our city's support of the real help that West Hollywood Community Cats seems to be uniquely able and willing to offer.
Thank you for your comments. Eugene Maysky to be followed by Calvin Laird and then Donna Caggiano.
Good evening, Mayor Heilman, Vice Mayor Heng, council members, city staff. My name is Eugene Maysky, and I'm your tenant outreach organizer for Coalition for Economic Survival for the city of West Hollywood. I'm here tonight in support of recommendation outlined in the city staff report for E1. Every day we at CS are doing a lot of education on tenants' rights in the community, conducting outreach and helping residents navigate issues involving rent stabilization ordinance. Through this work, I see firsthand that WeHo has one of the strongest tenant protections in the country, but those are only meaningful when they are consistently enforced. In the field, we continue to see the need for stronger enforcement of the city decisions, the rent stabilization ordinance and regulations affecting resident managers, reduction in housing services, and other tenants' protections. We also see how important proactive outreach is, because many tenants simply don't know their rights. I support the staff report because it recognizes these challenges and proposes important steps in strengthening enforcement and improve compliance. I specifically believe that increased outreach, regular check-ins regarding resident manager requirements, and stronger enforcement of city regulations mechanisms are essential. I also encourage the city to continue exploring ways to ensure that rent reductions are not treated by landlords as simply the cost of doing business. The goal should be always to restore the lost housing services and bring properties back into compliance, not merely accept reduced rent as the cost of doing business. The goal should be always to restore the lost housing services and make sure that every service that tenants had when they moved in is restored. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Calvin Laird to be followed by Donna Caggiano and then James Croak.
Good evening, Mayor Hellman, Vice Mayor Heng, council members and city staff.
Calvin, can you pull the mic a little closer?
That better?
Yeah, that's
sorry.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Calvin, and I've been a 10-year resident of West Hollywood. I am the president of our Tenants Association and a member of the CES. We are in support of the city staff report for item E1. I've personally been affected by the lack of enforcement on many occasions, so I think we definitely need stronger enforcement for landlords. I was also affected by the resident management issue. Finally, I didn't realize how much help or rights attendants had until I got involved in the issues with the residential rights. I'm not one to mince words, but I think we are for E1, and I'm going to yield my time.
Great, thank you. Donna Caggiano, to be followed by James Croak, and then Eitan Caspi. Sorry, I'm butchering that name. Donna, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Heilman, Vice Mayor Hong, City Council members, and city staff. My name is Donna Caggiano, and I'm a resident of West Hollywood since 1995. I'm also a member of the CES. I'm here to speak about the changes in my building at 8558 Holloway Drive. My building was sold to Holloway Construction, LLC, and is now managed by Starkwood Property Management. We do not have a full-time on-site building manager like we've had in the past. A person named Cynthia moved into apartment 105, and she's supposed to be the building manager. However, during the day, Cynthia works off-site at the Starkwood Property Management office. She has hours posted on her door, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., Monday through Friday. She isn't available during those hours frequently. Building vendors and repair people do not come at night. They present during normal business hours. Myself, as well as other tenants, have had to act as de facto building managers. The new owners were trying to get everybody to move out, doing the cash for keys. During these tenant move-outs, there was a lot of trash left on the front lawn. It took over 3 weeks before I could get this removed, and at the time, John Erickson was the mayor, and I notified him, and he was helpful in getting that stuff removed for us. The new manager was calling Athens, Los Angeles, not Athens, West Hollywood. We also don't know who's living in our building. We have a tenant who has a motorized wheelchair. Fire department and ambulance are called frequently. Management never comes out to see what's going on. Since the building's been sold, we have no idea who's living there. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. James Croak, to be followed by Eitan Caspi.
Hi. I'm definitely going to run out of time, so I'm going to try to pick up some parts. It's going to kind of be imperative for City Council and also the citizens that are listening and to tell your friends to kind of look up some of the things that I'm going to bring up. I'm here to talk about the flock camera contract. Currently, we have a lot of cities, even in LA, that are either postponing or restructuring or have backed out of their flock contracts for all kinds of different reasons, including security flaws in the hardware and software, including lies, including breach of contract. There's all kinds of different things. And right now, we are in a position where we are investing in our own technological cage. Currently, we have, the Coco delivery robots and Lime scooters and Waymo, and now we're adding in automatic license plate readers. And all of these technologies include like facial recognition, and the way that these companies work is they aggregate all this data and they can create heat maps of like literally everywhere I go. If they wanted to, they could find my face and track every single movement I have within town. And that's just something that they do. I work in tech. They say that they can't do that or that they don't use it that way, but they absolutely have access to it. Currently with data, they're checking faces, they're checking licenses, they're checking bumper stickers if you have dents in it. And what that can mean is if that you are a Bernie Sanders supporter or a Democrat or whatever, a bumper sticker can be used to track you and put you into an ideology that currently is being used by the Trump administration to be called a terrorist. They are saying that anti-tech people, anti-capitalist, anti-Christian, anti-fascists are actually terrorists, and at least 2, if not more, of those categories would apply to me. I'm not a terrorist, unfortunately for Donald Trump. The company Trust, they have lied. Their CEO has lied. They've lied about heat map capabilities, their camera access. Cameras can be hacked easily. If you go to YouTube, you can find people who hit buttons and can access and add in their own software to the cameras and access the data. There's way more.
Thank you. Eaton Caspi, thank you. I'm sorry I butchered your name. To be followed by Renee Sotil and MJ Gadges.
You did fine with the name. I've heard lots of versions. It's Eitan Caspi. And
Can you move the mic up a little bit, please? Yeah.
Eitan Caspi, also a longtime resident in West Hollywood at the same building as Donna Caggiano, and subject to the same deficiencies that she described. I want to just mention a couple of specific issues to do with code compliance, where we found some problems. On one occasion, we heard construction sounds above us. I went upstairs and saw workers doing what they said was installation of laundry hookups. I contacted code compliance, who said that there was no permit, that they would send someone over. We never heard anything subsequently. We had water at the building turned off at some point for a brief period. Apparently, laundry machines were hooked up. About 4 months later, we had a flooding from up above when the apartment was rented and the machines were run for the first time. We contacted code compliance, and we don't know what happened. We don't know if they sent someone over. We don't know anything about what happened. As far as we know, those machines are still up above. On another occasion, we contacted code compliance with the aid of one of the attorneys advising the RSO, and they contacted us regarding the absence of a resident manager during posted hours, said that they would send someone over on a regular basis to check on it, and again, we heard nothing about it. Those deficiencies continue. Hours are posted. The resident manager is not there during those hours on many occasions, and when she is there, does nothing proactive, nor does she respond to emergencies. Fire department needs to break down doors to help disabled people. The resident manager is not available. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take a couple more, Renee Sotil and MJ Gadges, and then Dimitri Kermani.
Hi, good evening, Council. I'm MJ Gadges, and this is Renee Sotil, West Hollywood Community Cats. And we want to thank you, Councilmember Meister, for bringing forward F2, the expansion of contracted shelter and veterinary services for unsheltered animals. And all of you for moving it to consent. Thanks for doing that. And as you know, this is so needed. So many residents don't know that West Hollywood even has shelters. And then there's so many residents who contact us at WeHo Community Cats, and they think we have a place for us to bring these friendly cats and kittens that we rescue from the streets. So far this year, since January, we have rescued 10 friendly cats off the streets. Most likely they were abandoned cats left outdoors, likely when their owners moved out and left their pets behind. And as you know, these are vulnerable pets that can't survive outdoors.
Oh, okay, yeah. And let's not forget the dogs. Sorry, we have 2 of them. A lot of people don't know. Hello, Dolly and Mandy. We're in the closet about our dogs. But
I'm proud of them.
But it's hard for residents who find lost or abandoned dogs, and some people don't have the space to even take them in for a little while. And the shelters are hard to reach, and they're closed on the weekends because we just got a call on Friday for somebody needing help. And so this will really, really help everyone, all the residents, all the 2-legged, all the 4-legged, to have a local and convenient shelter right here in West Hollywood. So thank you for pursuing that. And I just want to acknowledge our neighbor Liz, who lives on the next street, rescues elderly dogs, and we always see her and her husband walking them, the dogs that are totally abandoned and no one will take in, and they take them. So thank you, and thank you for your comments too, Liz. Thank you.
Thank
Meow.
you. It looks like we only have about 5 more. Is that correct, Melissa?
1, 2, 3. Yeah, 5 speakers and then citizen positions.
All right. Why don't we go ahead and take all of them if we can. Dimitri Kermani, to be followed by John Larson, and then Danielle Montavano.
Good evening, Mayor Heilman, Vice Mayor Hang, and council members. My name is Dimitri Kermani. I'm a Bozeman, Montana resident, but a business owner here in West Hollywood. When it comes to business ownership, one of the things I do is own real estate, and I own the R.M. Schindler building at the corner of Holloway and Sunset. It's one of the buildings that was severely affected and impacted by last week's water main break. It's a building that's responsible for over 100 employees in the city of West Hollywood, and sadly it was devastated. Most people would be here screaming, I'm here to say thank you. I'm here to say thank you to the city of West Hollywood. It really takes a village, and all of you have truly stepped up and been absolutely incredible. And I want to specifically point out for people at the dais. Mayor Heilman, I arrived on scene at 6:30 in the morning. On Thursday, you were already there. You came up, you gave me a hug, asked what it is you could do. Vice Mayor Hang, you were there maybe 5 minutes after I showed up, before 7 o'clock in the morning. And within 2 hours, I had a text message from Council Member Chelsea Byers. And so I want to thank the three of you. You've been tremendous. You've been calling every day. You've been showing up every day. Jackie Rocco is the fourth person I wanted to acknowledge and thank, who has been on site talking to the tenants, making sure they know what services are available to them, offering any help that they can. Their employees are the #1 priority. I've already spoken with all of the tenants. I told them I'm ready to defer whatever's necessary to make sure your employees get paid first. And I'm just incredibly grateful at all of the support that you've shown. So thank you very much. This has been an incredible representation of what it is as a community, and I'm incredibly indebted and grateful for everything that you've done.
Thank you, Dimitri. And before you leave, I just want to mention that even though his building was hard hit, he was out there offering his assistance as well to the neighbors who were impacted. Thank you, Dimitri. John Larson, to be followed by Danielle Montavano.
Good evening, Mayor Heilman, Vice Mayor Hang, and council members and city staff. My name is John Larson. I'm a 32-year resident at West Hollywood, at 1218 North Laurel Avenue. Sorry, I got that messed up. I'm here to support CES and having no enforcement of on-site managers. I do have a hearing that I have won for no on-site manager, and I would like to know how the enforcement would go. It's taken away many services for us. There has been an on-site manager there for about 4 years, and now there's just a ghost manager that just gets a small amount of money to say they're manager, but does no services on site and no posted hours that are being recognized. So I'll give up the rest of my time. I just want to make sure I'm in support of that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see one of our staff from rent stabilization, I believe, is here, who may be able to follow up with you. If somebody from RSD could raise their hand tonight. There, we see somebody back here. Did you see her? Okay. All right. And then Danielle Montavano, to be followed by Cody Christensen, and then Alexander Smith.
Good evening, Mayor Heilman, Vice Mayor Hang, council members, city staff. My name is Danielle Montavano, and I am a 24-year West Hollywood resident and a CES member. I'm here tonight to speak in support of city staff report, item E1. I am currently living at 1218 North Laurel Avenue. I've been a resident there for 2 years. It's a 16-unit building. We've never had an on-site manager in the time I've been there. My building alone has had 4 hearings, 2 appeals with rent stabilization in the past year. They are for basic things like safety and sanitary conditions. We spend our hard-earned money for rent and for services, and the landlord is making approximately $26,000 a month, and they're doing nothing. They have no on-site manager, and as I said, we're allowing this landlord to continue to neglect, and it's an accident waiting to happen. Someone could be hurt, all because of this intentional neglect and disregard. Also, the landlord, by his resistance, is running up money being spent by the city to refuse to do what is right. So we have to keep coming back. More hearings, more appeals. A rent reduction is not the answer, as the safety of the tenants who work, pay taxes, support the economy and community of WeHo are being harmed and ignored. So I just want to know why. Thank you.
Thank you. Cody Christensen to be followed by Alexander Smith. And then we have some citizen position slips.
Oh, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, West Hollywood, hello. First, I just want to say my heart goes out to every resident and business that was affected by the water main break. We are thinking of all of you. I want to tell you all a quick little story. So today I was out handing out flyers for my event that's going to happen on August 1st at Louisa Coffee. And I walked down this street, and it was all single-family homes. And there was this older gentleman out raking his leaves, and so I went up and handed him a flyer. I had to raise my voice a little bit because he couldn't hear me. But his name was George, and he was 90 years old. Didn't look a day over 65. But he told me that he had been in his house for over 60 years. And that touched my heart that someone had been in our community for that long, longer than this has even been a city. And I told George that maybe one day there might be an 8-story building going up next to his home, and he got nervous about that. And I said, we're gonna do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen, George. Thank you. So at the Planning Commission meeting last week, they heard the we in WeHo, and one of their recommendations is going to be to look into a TODAP option. And I hope that you listen to them because they listen to us.
Please put your sign down. Thank you.
Thank
Sorry,
you,
Cody.
Council. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alexander Smith to be followed by citizen position slips.
Good evening, how's it going? My name is Alexander Smith, as you can see, and I'm actually relatively new here. I came to the city of Beverly Hills, actually, for a refuge from San Diego. I'm a former police officer, former correctional officer, and large experience in law enforcement. And I experienced discrimination and hatred in San Diego, and so I had to come here for safety. And when I say here, I meant actually Beverly Hills. I had no knowledge of the city of West Hollywood, didn't know it was a city, had no idea at all. However, it worked out perfectly because I am a member of the LGBT community, and that's the discrimination I experienced. And so when I found out about West Hollywood, I was like, that's perfect. And I was actually gonna go back to San Diego. However, the law enforcement there did something unimaginable. And so I wind up staying here and continuing my search and living in law enforcement. I mean, I have to work to make a living for myself. And first I was like, hey, why not look at the West Hollywood Sheriff's Department? However, it's not the city's own police department, and Beverly Hills has their own police department. And the reason why I'm here today is because I feel like this city needs their own police department for people like myself who have experienced domestic violence due to their sexuality. And I could go on, I don't have enough time, as you can see. However, I do plan on coming to the next meeting for public safety, and I think it's next week, to go into detail on why West Hollywood needs their own police department. Because I've actually had to go to the sheriff's station multiple times and have experienced the worst customer service coming from a citizen and from someone who's worked in law enforcement. And I will see you guys next week.
Thank you. We do have some citizen position slips, Melissa.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Cody Christensen submitted a citizen position slip in support of item F1. WeHo Community Cats, Renee and MJ in support of item F2. Cody Christensen in support of item F2, and Jody Schwartz in support of item F2.
Thank you. And Councilmember Erickson, you had something you wanted to add to the minutes?
Yes, thanks. I know there was a comment about something regarding a planning commissioner. The planning commissioner actually never did say that. That was from another member of the community. It was just reshared, and I think a local blog commented that it was that planning commissioner, when that's actually not true. So I know technology is hard to navigate these days, for people, but I just wanted to make sure the minutes reflected that Commissioner Solomon never said that, and that should be reflected on all reporting because you want to make sure you get the truth as long.
All right, we will now turn to our next agenda item, which I believe is our consent calendar. Our consent calendar is a series of routine items that we approve with a single motion. And there is a motion to approve and a second, but before we do that, Melissa is going to give us the fiscal impact on tonight's consent calendar.
Yes, Mayor, the fiscal impact on tonight's consent calendar with the addition of items F1, F2, F3, and F4 is $249,996 in expenditures, $654,505 in revenue, and $72,468 in waived fees. And
We have a motion and a second, so
Yes,
we'll go
we'll
ahead
start
and vote on
voting.
that. And tonight's consent calendar has been approved. Thank you, everyone. We will now turn to our legislative items. We have no public hearings tonight, so the first item before us is an ordinance of the City of West Hollywood amending the business license tax of the West Hollywood Municipal Code to extend for 1 year a temporary tax rebate for all eligible cannabis businesses through June 30th, 2027. And I see Laura Byrie has come forward and Laura D'Ambrosia, and I believe they're going to give us a brief staff report. Do we have any speakers on this item?
No, Mayor, we do not.
Okay. I don't believe we need a lengthy staff report. Does anyone feel the need for a... Okay, so if you can keep it very brief.
Mayor?
Yes.
While staff is setting up, I did want to note for the record that in section 4 of the proposed ordinance, it should read a new subsection parentheses E is added to section 3.36.094 of chapter 3.36 of Title 3 of the West Hollywood Municipal Code.
Correct. That's just a minor typographical error. Thank
Yeah.
you. Well, it appears that we're having some difficulty getting the PowerPoint loaded. So why don't we just turn to council discussion? We have already a rebate for cannabis businesses, and the question before us is whether to extend that and whether to extend it at a 2% level or a 1% level. The budget subcommittee reviewed this, and there was a recommendation that we approve the extension, but we did not reach agreement as to whether it was for the 2% that it currently is or whether we should begin reducing that to 1%.
Mayor, may I ask the subcommittee what each subcommittee member, I'm guessing, had different opinions. If each subcommittee member could tell us what their recommendation was, I would love to know.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I recommended a reduction.
One, thank you.
Yeah. And I support the idea of a reduction, but we also recommended that we convene a meeting of all of the cannabis businesses and discuss more globally whether to reduce the rebate or cut some of the marketing or a combination. So that's why I was comfortable with going forward with the 2%, but I feel some rebate is warranted. Whether we go the full 2% is really up to the council.
I have a question for staff,
Sure.
if that may be appropriate. So I guess at the last meeting when I asked questions about the Emerald Village, I asked for a report back on the social good donation that I guess cannabis businesses are supposed to be, as a part of their license, giving out. I haven't gotten any information back on that, and so I think before I can ever vote for a rebate percentage with 2 or 1%, I kind of want to know and make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I'm not saying they're not, but I would like to ensure that I don't want to call it social good, but you get what I'm trying to say and what I'm getting at. I've never gotten a report on any of that or what dollars have been spent per business, per license, and I think that if I don't want to be in a place where we approve, let's say 2%, right, or 1%, and then we get a report back at the next meeting and like, you know, Susie's marijuana joint, not a real business, right? You know, but like hasn't ever done its due diligence. And I just think we should be making sure we're checking and making sure they actually are before we offer them more public assistance in the way that we always have been.
Laura, do you have a response?
Great. Thank you so much, Mayor, members of the City Council. Apologies for the delay in getting this up, and wonderful staff presentation, Mayor Heilman, might I say. 40 years in the making.
I learned from you.
With regard to the social good component, we do have Director Danny Rivas here. His team works on the enforcement and the licensing of our cannabis businesses, so I will defer to Director Rivas regarding that question. I have placed up on the screen the subcommittee's recommendation and discussion so that members of the community can also see that. And then we do also have the minor edit that was read by the city clerk, so that is visually up on the screen as well for everyone.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Councilmember Erickson. So Danny Rivas, Director of Community Safety for the city. And so, yeah, we have not enforced or done any sort of audit. You know, our revenue division does the intake. I know our revenue manager isn't here this evening, but as far as I'm aware, there has not been any redistribution of funds, right, towards the community, et cetera, from any of the cannabis business or social good, as you referenced, that I'm aware of.
Oh, wait, so, okay. So I'm going to ask the city attorney this question, and maybe Mayor or Councilmember Meister, because you were here when this was supposed to happen, or when they wrote the ordinance. My understanding was that when people applied for a license, one of the components was you had to provide a certain percentage, or you had to pick a charity, a nonprofit, something like that, and provide some type of social good component to it in order to get approved or something. Has that changed, or?
It's slightly different and not as specific.
Okay.
One of the scoring categories to get a license was whether you had, I forget the term, some sort of social good component, and you would get some points for that. But it wasn't necessarily something that could be quantified in a numeric amount. It could be hiring local. It could be using green providers. It was things that would benefit the community, and that was scored. It wasn't necessarily something that was quantified into a dollar figure.
And then, so essentially that got them the license. So in essence, in order to when they got scored, so that would be a part of their application, and then would we not adhere to that component of their application, or how did we enforce that aspect?
I think it was called the social equity component.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
that's what it was called.
Yes.
And I think all of the cannabis licensees are required to comply with the business proposal that they put in their application so that they would operate in the way they promised when they got the scores that got them to get the license. So it should be part of their business plan and their business model, whatever they promised in their application.
So I'm going to go back to Danny. How long has the program been in place now? 10, how many years? 6, 7?
It was written in 2017.
2017, so almost 10 years. I'm going to figure out a way to phrase this. How do we know they're making good on their business proposal now? Have we ever sat there and asked them? Like, do we know if MedMen hired local? Great. Okay, check that box. Do we know if Artistry gives money to, I don't know, the West Hollywood Housing Corps every month? I don't know, but how are we actually enforcing or measuring that? Because I'm not comfortable at all moving forward with any sort of rebate until we actually get that information.
I'm actually going to give a slightly more detailed information this is from the cannabis ordinance that's in the code. It was a social equity in terms of providing a living wage and employee benefits and compliance with local, state, and federal employee non-discrimination policies. I thought there was more social equity component to it for the scoring. I'd have to pull up the scoring matrix from when the applications.
Okay.
were submitted.
I guess I don't need to keep
Yeah.
saying what I want to say, Mayor, but my concerns have been
And
vocalized.
I'm guessing that code enforcement typically acts in a reactive way when there's a complaint, and maybe what we need to be doing is creating a system for monitoring and auditing that component of the license. Questions from my other colleagues? And we certainly can defer this because we're going to be doing this retroactively to the beginning of the fiscal year, so there's no reason we couldn't defer this if there are questions.
Sure. I think the question that Councilmember Erickson raised is a fair one. It sounds like from you, Director Rivas, there hasn't been an enforcement or an auditing period, so I'd be curious, especially at a 10-year mark, of what that looks like. I know that as part of the budget discussions, I was supportive of the 2% rebate, but to the mayor's point, if we can have some question come back to us to get an assessment of this, I think it's valuable information, and I am supportive of that 2% for what it's worth whenever it comes back.
Okay. Are we comfortable just deferring this until we get some more information about whether the businesses are in compliance and you know, they may not even remember this requirement either, so it may require us to take some action to remind them that this was a condition of the licensure. Okay. All right, so this item is going to be deferred to a subsequent meeting. We'll now move on to item E1. And this is a policy update that the subcommittee on the rent stabilization subcommittee has been working on very closely with our rent stabilization director, along with Yvonne Horker, who is acting in charge of everything.
Leona Rollins is the Rent Stabilization Manager, and I am the Acting Director of Human Services and Rent Stabilization, for the record.
And we're going to have a PowerPoint, I believe.
Yes, that is correct.
Are there any remaining speakers on this item, Melissa?
No, they all spoke during public comment.
Okay. And I believe council has read through the report, but we have some, I think, some questions. Okay. There we go.
Yes, finally. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members. My name is Leona Rollins. I'm the Rent Stabilization Manager for the city. And tonight we'll be having a brief presentation regarding the policy direction for the Rent Stabilization Ordinance update. Just for the benefit of the council as well as the community, the Rent Stabilization Division did receive direction on November 17th of 2025 to look into some considerations of various policies in order to strengthen our Rent Stabilization Ordinance as well as our regulations. So the purpose and the recommendations for this evening is to provide an update on the ad hoc committee review of the Rent Stabilization Ordinance, to request policy direction on the balance enforcement and compliance framework that we have been working on, and to ultimately to return with ordinance amendments after a stakeholder engagement and legal review by our city attorney's office. So the reason why we are working diligently to update our ordinance and regulation is that we want to improve accountability, consistency, and transparency. We want to strengthen tenant protections while recognizing a fair return for our property owners, and also to transition from a primarily complaint-driven process to a more compliance model, which basically will take us from being reactive to more proactive. And this will also lead to us improving operational efficiencies through enhanced staffing and, of course, administrative processes. So some of the key policy focus areas that we have been focusing on for this particular update includes things such as our registration and compliance as it comes to rent overcharges, our resident manager standards, rent reductions and annual rent increase eligibility, utilizing mediation, early dispute resolutions, owner occupancy verification, as well as displacement monitoring and reporting. So in terms of our implementation approach is that we want to, like I said, indicate that we want to have a balanced compliance framework where we're focusing on things such as outreach and education, voluntary compliance for our property owners and property management companies, complaint investigation, mediation and hearings, and also utilizing enforcement mechanisms such as administrative, civil, or criminal enforcement whenever deemed necessary. Key things to note is that there are going to be several steps before these revisions come into play. We will have stakeholder engagement for anyone that impacted by our rent stabilization ordinance, meaning tenants, tenant advocacy groups, property owner, property management companies, and so on, which will start in the late summer going into the early fall. We will then work very closely with our city attorney's office to do the legal review and address any appropriate amendments to our ordinance and regulations. And then we will ultimately return back to city council with our recommendations. So as of this evening, we are requesting council direction to us ultimately to receive and file this update, to provide policy direction, and then ultimately to direct staff to return with recommendations after additional review, stakeholder engagement, and legal analysis. And I'm available for any questions or comments.
Are there any questions at this time? We do have one public speaker. We'll go ahead and hear from the speaker, Joseph Ramos.
Good evening, Council. Joseph Ramos for the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles. We appreciate the City Council's and staff's desire to have additional stakeholder outreach on each of the important issues raised in the staff report and look forward to being active participants in those meetings. However, we strongly urge you to immediately remove the proposal that would tie a housing provider's ability to receive their annual rent adjustment to so-called unresolved issues. Annual increases are already severely limited by the existing RSO ordinance. If they are further delayed by minor violations, more small housing providers will be financially driven out of West Hollywood, and their properties will be sold to corporations for redevelopment as luxury housing. Even listing this item will cause severe fear among small owners struggling to retain financial stability after years of unpaid rent due to COVID-19 moratoriums, and may push many to sell without waiting to see what the City Council ultimately decides on this critical issue. The city already has an appropriate enforcement tool. Significant fines for violations of existing ordinances. Using fines, the city is able to specifically target the problematic conduct in an appropriate manner without jeopardizing ownership of the entire building as affordable rental housing. Annual rent adjustments are not a reward. They are necessary increases of income that owners rely on to pay monthly mortgages payments, skyrocketing property insurance premiums, property taxes, and increasing costs for sewer fees, trash hauling fees, and building-wide repairs and maintenance that benefit all renters. While this issue is our primary concern of those listed in the Rent Stabilization Department report, there are many others that also work against preserving naturally occurring affordable housing. Each of these policy issues are extremely important and are deserving of full analysis and discussion as a standalone issues. We urge the City Council to conduct necessary due diligence on each rather than merely lumping them together without appropriate time for thoughtful review. Lastly, we respectfully ask that AGLA be included in every future stakeholder meeting before any ordinance language is drafted. As a leading local organization representing rental housing providers, our firsthand experience is essential to developing balanced, workable policies for property owners and renters that rely on existing rental housing. Thank you.
Thank you. That's our only speaker on this item. So questions, Councilmember Erickson.
Thank you, and thank you to the subcommittee for working hard. I know we all gave direction previously on this item because we all were frustrated, so I want to thank them for working so diligently. I know a lot of members, and thank you to the community members from CES and everywhere, Eugene and everyone for your long-term advocacy. I want to talk about property managers specifically. What is the recourse currently for non-compliance with a property manager?
Yes, thank you so much for the question, Councilman Erickson. So as of right now, if you have a lack of an on-site manager for a 16-unit property or more, essentially what happens, the tenant is actually asked to write a letter to their property owner or property management team. They have to wait 30 days. After the 30 days have lapsed, if a manager is not implemented, then they have to file for a hearing application. Then they have to wait till the hearing is scheduled, and then at that point, an external hearing examiner will make a determination if they're entitled to a rent reduction.
How long does that like process take? So 30 days, and then like does the landlord or whomever have like 10 days, 7 days to respond, or how does it work?
So typically, on an average, once the 30 days have lapsed, from the time that we receive a completed and approved application, it can take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks for you to have your hearing scheduled, for us to collect additional evidence from each party, and then schedule you for a hearing, and then they have an additional 30 days for the hearing examiner to issue their decision on the matter.
Wonderful. Oh, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you? Okay, sorry. And how many, have you been seeing an ballpark, like an increase in these, or as more people are getting organized, is that something that you're getting used to? For the record, I don't have an on-site property manager. I live in a 16-unit building or more. I'm happy to organize a letter, maybe a little too on the nose because where that would go. However, my building itself isn't even in compliance, and my landlord is generally afraid of me. Sorry, apartment association. But like, but I mean, I would be too. But I think that in reality, like, they try to do the right thing most of the time. But like, this is clearly happening to a council member, so it must be happening much more widely. And CES is trying to organize as many people. But ballpark, are you seeing more and more of these, or where are we at?
Yes, so typically when you're receiving applications for like reduction in services, I would say 1 out of every 3 applications is indicating that it's a lack of an on-site manager.
Oh, wow.
And even though we have the ability for the external hearing examiner to award a rent reduction, I think it should be clearly noted that these rent reductions are not a forever and ever opportunity. These are giving them the opportunity to restore those housing services. I have visited many properties throughout the city through my 6-month tenure here, and every time we speak to a tenant, whether they have been there a year or 20 years, they always indicated, I would most rather have the housing service restored versus having this rent reduction.
Yeah. And thank you, and welcome to the city. I think
Thank
this
you.
is maybe your first time presenting with all of us. Congratulations or commiserations, but you're doing great so far.
Thank you.
I guess my question is, from a legal standpoint, and maybe the city attorney can help, is there other ways that we can force non-compliance or shortening the time frame or even penalties on landlords that would choose to, I don't know, take their sweet time or not get back to people or put more burden on the tenants? I mean, people are stressed so much, but is there, and anyone, feel free to answer, any other way, I mean, per the public commenters, for us to give more recourse that the city can have more teeth in this matter versus not? What are we missing, I guess?
Okay, I can answer that question, Councilmember
Please.
Erickson. So essentially what has happened is that we're solely dependent on the tenants coming forward and saying, hey, this is what actually is happening at our property. And that's why in the staff report we indicated one of the things we want to do as we're working through the stakeholder engagement and once we start doing implementation of any changes we make to the ordinance and regulations, is that we're going to provide property owners with the opportunity to get into voluntary compliance. Saying, hey, this is your last-ditch effort to comply, make sure that you're abiding by all state, federal laws, but also ensuring that they're abiding by our ordinance and our regulations. Because right now, there's nothing that they can do. They have to follow the process, 30-day letter, hearing application, hearing decision, and then you are then open to whether or not the other party appeals. So in order to prevent that, we have been working very closely with our city attorney's office, Calvin specifically, to work on some draft tenant letters that could basically detail these actual complaints and let them know at this point in time, we're aware of the situation. Let's avoid going this back and forth. You have the opportunity now to get into compliance. And if you do not get into compliance, that's when we're going to be utilizing our administrative and other remedies available to us under the regulations to basically twist for enforcement and compliance.
Is there a way for us to go from a 30-day response to like a 7-day response or like 2 weeks? Is there anything like in state law or anything that's preventing us from shortening the time frame?
For the resident manager?
Yeah.
I think that's a local requirement.
Yes, that's a local
That you have the
requirement.
Right now it's
discretion to make
30 days?
I think it's
Yes,
30
as
days
of right now, anytime you're looking for, if you have a more overcharge or a reduction in housing services, anything that is geared toward a hearing application does require that you give the housing provider 30 days in order for them to try to address the issue. But as I've been working here, I've been noticing is that a lot of property owners, and this is not no ding to our mom and pops, typically our mom and pops, which makes up about 15 to 16% of our property owners, are literally always in compliance or are the quickest to get into compliance. We're having more challenges with our corporate housing providers. So what we've been noticing is that they are literally telling us, and as well as telling their tenants, the rent reduction is so low, I'll just take it as a part of my everyday business expenses. But that doesn't ultimately get you back into compliance to assure that the housing services that your tenants are losing are actually restored. So I would be wholeheartedly in agreement that if we can shorten that time frame, then we can get the process moving a lot quicker.
And then my last question, Mayor, apologies, is there a definition for small mom and pop versus a corporate housing landlord in our code? Or, because I understand what you're talking about, and I do know some of those mom and pop landlords that do exactly as you're saying. They find out something's wrong and they fix it, and I do appreciate that. But there are people like Blackstone and other places that come in and buy up a lot of these properties, and they themselves are base their dollars amount on their balance sheets. And so if there's a way in which we could define that, kind of like what we did with the minimum wage when we differentiated between the big business and small business from 25 and more and 25 and less to 50 and more and 50 and less.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in that, but I'll save more. And if you want to answer, I think you know where I'm going, but I'll save my comments then for later, Mayor.
Okay, great. Councilmember.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the residential manager piece specifically. You mentioned, 1 out of every 3 requests has to do with this. Is there a scale to that problem on their end, like a hiring problem, a training? Are they losing people capacity-wise? Is there an upstream way that we can think about this as a city, knowing that we are a local community who really values this? I think in other spaces, there's thoughts entertaining the idea that we could remove this altogether, but I know the value this on-site manager role plays in our community, and to prove it, how can we further invest in that as a city, as a resource? I'm just curious, what else have you learned through this process? Why are they not able to find them? And I know some of it is also just finding loopholes to get people out of the buildings and not have to invest in that service, but.
Yes. So I've done probably a total of 15 to 18 site visits throughout the community for various issues. And one of the key things that we've been noticing, regardless of where the property is located throughout the city, is that once, the on-site manager decides that they don't longer live there, unfortunately they may pass away or have to go into a skilled nursing facility. We have noticed some of those properties have made not an attempt to hire an on-site manager. In turn, they remodeled the former on-site manager's unit and then put it back on the market at market rate. So, and like I said, if there's any property owners or property management teams that are having difficulties in terms of hiring an on-site manager or going through that particular process, we always recommend that they address that with the rent stabilization division, but that is not what we're hearing in terms of the recordings for our hearing application. We're not hearing that at our appeals. So we're just basing it on the evidence that we have that was presented to us at this particular time.
Thank you.
And one of the things you shared with us is, and some of the speakers shared tonight, is the owner may have a manager that is allegedly on site, but they're not there and they're not available. So that's something else that the subcommittee recommended we address.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Meister.
Thank you, Mayor. So I was interested also in tighter timelines for compliance, but also, can you explain how the rent reductions and citations work together as an enforcement tool?
Yes. So typically with the rent reductions, if it's tied to, for example, like a substandard condition or a habitability issue, then we basically collaborate with the Code Enforcement Division. They do their inspection, because that falls on their purview. And if necessary, if there's no compliance, then that's when they start administering the administrative citations, while simultaneously we'll be working with the tenants to ensure they are submitting the hearing application to get their rent reduction in the interim. But the ultimate goal is for us to work coincide with one another, so basically to strongly inform the owner that it's in their best interest to get into compliance.
So there is an administrative citation which has a financial
yes,
component
that's correct.
to
Yes.
it. Is going for the rent reduction via a hearing. I mean, if we know that something is broken, why do we have to go through the rent stabilization commission to enforce or to get that approved when we know something is not working?
And that's a great question and point, Councilmember Meister. It's because the regulations say so, unfortunately.
Okay, but are those our regulations or is that state regulations?
Well, that's what will get you, the hearing process will get you the rent reduction. Whether the city has other tools to try and force landlords to behave differently, those are available as well. I think it depends which path the city's taking, but the rent reduction has to go through that process.
But why, what I'm asking is the rent reduction process a state law?
No,
or is
that's
that
local.
That's
our local
So if we
ordinance.
changed our laws to make it that we force the rent reduction without having to go through a public hearing, that would speed things up, and that would,
No, we can't do that. That's a due process requirement that there has to be a hearing before there's a rent reduction. But there is a way that we can enforce, and in fact, that's what the subcommittee has talked about. When we know that there's a clear violation and there's no manager, we're going to handle that by the department sending a standard letter saying you're not in compliance, you have X number of days to come into compliance, and then when they don't, then we go through the administrative process and fine them for that, rather than putting the onus on the tenant to have to file for a rent decrease and go through that process.
And what if it's like a broken air conditioner or something?
Well, I think that's part of what we're talking about, is which things are appropriate for a hearing with a rent reduction, and which things are things that can be handled through just enforcement through the department.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at, is that I feel that if we are aware that something is happening, is not working, whether it's that they don't have a manager or that they don't have a working air conditioner, that we should be able to have that administrative process. Maybe a suggestion would be that if they want to appeal, the landlord wants to appeal it, maybe then they can go ahead and go through the hoops to get a hearing.
There is an appellate process through the administrative proceeding,
Okay.
so they would have that. But that was really the thrust of our recommendations, that we have a more balanced approach. Some things do need to go through the hearing process, but where there are clear violations, the department has the authority to enforce it through the administrative process.
But have we been doing more hearings than administrative?
We really haven't been doing administrative.
Yeah, so administratively, we have not been doing that. So basically what we've been doing is just basically following the ordinance and the regulations, taking them through the actual process of going through the hearing application and so on and so forth. However, what we have been doing, because I'm all about enforcement and protecting people's housing rights and so on and so forth, is that we have started working and drafting compliance letters, because we're seeing, it's not just like simple things like, there's like, the walkway is like, colored with leaves and things like that. We're dealing with really egregious issues, people not having working plumbing, electrical issues, lack of on-site managers. And like I said, we don't want it to be a situation where you just get a $40 rent reduction, that's supposed to be the be-all, end-all, and that's not the situation that we are proposing at this time. We're also working very closely with our subcommittee of our Rent Stabilization Commission to update our valuation guidelines, because our valuation guidelines do not align with the economic market at this time. If you're just getting a $15 rent reduction, and your landlord's collecting over $3,000 a month in rent, that doesn't give them the inclination that they should get back into compliance, and that's why they tell us, well, I'll just take the rent reduction. I'm not gonna pay my building. I'm not gonna get an on-site manager, because what's $40 to me at the end of the day? Because in the next year, I'll just be able to increase the rent by almost 3%, so I get my money back anyway.
Well, also, they'll be able to write it off in their taxes. I mean, that's the bottom line, is that it's not costing them to do it. And I think whatever we can do to strengthen the administrative process is what I would, really be supportive of, because to me, just getting a rent reduction through a public hearing, which becomes, it becomes burdensome on the tenants that are already burdened by the loss of the reduction in services.
Absolutely, and I completely concur with what you stated, because that's the struggle sometimes, is that tenants will call in and say, my air conditioner hasn't worked and it's been a heat wave. And we're like telling them the process. They're like, well, I would do all that, but I can't. It's like too much work. I'm going through enough in my personal life. So we want to be able to still address those concerns proactively when not having them be forced to follow this process that we currently have in place.
Right, and I think that was the whole intention of this item, is that to take the burden away from the tenants and put it where it belongs if someone is not providing the service that they promised.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Hang.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the report, and thank you to the subcommittee. It was really well-rounded. I noticed that the staff report indicated that a new staff attorney was hired in June of this year, so
June 15th.
amazing. What is the current backlog of hearings?
Actually, as of today, we have two scheduled for next, no, actually we have two scheduled for next Tuesday, two scheduled for next Thursday, and that is it. I work hard.
That's incredible. That is incredible.
Yeah.
So in line with what some of my colleagues were saying just moments ago, can we create like a tiered system so that certain violations are like super priority 1, 2, 3, and that way it avoids, it can be remedied in a more expeditious manner?
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, that's the kind of policy direction that we're seeking this evening, is to basically see, based on what what we worked on with the ad hoc committee, what additional things that, the council would like to see. And I think having a tier process, because tier 1 would be like the most egregious, actions that are being taking place. Tier 2 is kind of like in the middle. We can still write informational letters to the property owner or property management team. And then ultimately tier 3 is like, okay, this is, it still impacts you, but it's more minor. So you can just go through the process. But like I said, at the end of the day, we just want to ensure that tenants who, are paying their hard-earned money and that they're getting the service that they were promised as soon as that they enter into their lease agreements.
And then I don't know how this would affect workload, but I don't know if there's a way where we can like start the clock as soon as an application is received or a violation is reported.
Yeah, that won't increase the workload at all. We run a really tight ship now.
Great. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you to your staff, and also
Yes.
thank you to our Rent Stabilization Commission, because they are
Yes.
your partners, they're our partners in helping to get this work done.
Yeah, it's a complete honor to serve this community. We have great partnerships with our commission. I have a really strong staff, and we're happy to do the work that we do every day.
Councilmember Meister.
Yeah, I had a question about the loss of parking. I wanted to understand, especially if someone is creating an ADU and they're taking away the parking, which they're allowed to do by state law, how are we figuring out how much that loss is worth? Because we are going to be having a conversation in the next month or two about parking and unbundling parking. And these things need to make sense, right?
Absolutely.
So how are we figuring out loss of parking?
Yeah, so one thing about the loss of parking, we're working very closely with planning and building and safety in terms of those that are proposing ADUs, which will create either a loss of tandem parking space equating to 2 or 1 parking space. As of right now, a permanent loss of a parking space would only provide a tenant or a tenant's household with between $124 per month up to $324. And as of right now, in comparison to other jurisdictions that also have rent stabilization, that is extremely on the low side. And like I said, it's very difficult to find parking. We're having a lot of issues, on like Larrabee and like Horn and things like that, where parking is very, very limited, is very, very competitive. So we're just trying to make sure that they get the appropriate rent reduction so they can be able to utilize and find alternative parking, but also those that may be having are senior or have, physical disabilities or limitation, that they also have an ability to have something that's going to be more closer to their unit so that they won't have to be trucking up and down from Kings Road parking lot.
So I just want to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing there,
yes,
that planning has that background when they come back to us.
Absolutely,
regarding
yeah.
the parking, the unbundling. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Erickson, any further comments?
I'm happy to try to add some of my thoughts to a motion. Or
Yeah, but I haven't jumped
I'm sorry,
in.
I didn't want to jump the gun.
And I'm on the subcommittee with Councilmember Byers, and I think what has been presented is a series of recommendations, not details, but big picture. And the big picture is that we want a balanced approach. Our goal is to get compliance from our property owners. Our goal is to take some of the burden off of our tenants to enforce the provisions of the rent stabilization ordinance, to have a more proactive approach from the department. And I guess in addition to the recommendations here, I also just want to say that leadership matters. And we now have somebody in charge, who is a leader, who has taken over the department, taken control of it, and taken responsibility for everything in the department. I think it also helps that we now have it fully staffed, and we have some great new additions, and a mediator, new attorney, and all of that has shown the comment about the backlog of hearings. We don't have one anymore because you now have control over the hearing examiners, and you're holding them to the fire and making sure they get their decisions done in time. So thank you, Leona, for all of your work and all of the recommendations here. I heard some comments about, is it possible for us to shorten the times of the hearing? I think that could be something that can be added to the subcommittee's work, if that's something that council is interested in.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you. I forgot to thank the subcommittee, or maybe I did already. I don't know.
You did.
Thank you. Thank you again. But yeah, I would really love to identify if there is a way to distinguish corporate landlords versus small mom and pops. I know they're overly burdened in those ways, and so I want to try to see if there's a way in which we could wiggle room that. I don't know what the proper language is for that, but specifically the 30-day requirement, I'm willing to go down to, I wanted to say 7 days, but I was going to go down to 14 days to give 2 weeks notice versus the full 30 days, but I don't know how my colleagues feel about that.
Well, I don't think we need to make that decision tonight. I think we should ask our staff to evaluate. And it may be that for certain violations, 30 days makes more sense to come into compliance, but we certainly can look at that as a subcommittee.
One thing I do want to know, technically, you know, mom and pop is like an everyday terminology that we utilize, but I just wanted to know for the record that there is no one-size-fits-all definition for quote-unquote mom and pop property owners. It varies jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Some will classify a mom and pop property owner as someone that owes, you know, 2 to 4 units versus someone that owes 5 to 10. So we will work very closely with the ad hoc committee to come up with whether or not it's going to be in diverse as the number of units altogether you own within the city, your full portfolio, but we'll work very closely with the ad hoc committee to get a definition that we can bring forth back to council.
And I think we also have to think about, why are we differentiating? Are there particular provisions of the ordinance that we think might be more onerous on a mom and pop landlord versus the corporate landlords? So
Yes.
Those are things I think we can look at.
Absolutely.
It sounds like everyone is in agreement that we're heading in the right direction generally. There were some additional suggestions that were added, and that can be added to the committee's work.
Yes.
And I think tonight, you're just asking for, are we headed in the right direction, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Any objection to the direction we're headed in? So it sounds like we're all in agreement, and we have some additional suggestions for the subcommittee to look at and staff to evaluate. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, everyone. We'll move on now to item E2. This is a approval of a council discretionary fund request for co-sponsorship, and I see that Andy and Jennifer are here to give a staff report, but it sounded like you had a question, Councilmember Erickson.
Yes, thank you. And this shouldn't be too, well, maybe it is. So during, I mean, it's not going to be. But during, I think the original pre-budget committee meeting, it was Mayor Byers and Vice Mayor Heilman. I brought up the same point and I brought it up again. I guess my question is like, why is this even on our agenda? Like, and I'll elaborate. One, Vice Mayor Hang and Mayor Heilman want to use their, I won't call it a slush fund anymore, their appropriated budgetary funds to fund this event. Like, cool. Like, I feel like it takes up more staff time and more time for us to approve it. Like, but if they're taking their money and approving it and it fits within the city's core values, like, I
can respond to that.
Okay, thank you.
It's not our money. It's the city's money.
I understand, but
and every appropriation needs to be approved by the council as a whole. So even though we have set aside certain budget amount for individual council members' discretion, that discretion is still subject to council approval.
Okay, that was just I didn't know if there was a better way to do it because, in other ways, but it seems like it's fine. I'm totally supportive of the item. I do believe staff did have some concerns about it when we got the request earlier about this proposal. They were asking for much more than we're giving. Is that the question?
The original request from the event producer was for additional funding, and so we're coming forward with a request totaling $10,000. If another council member would like to contribute from their discretionary fund, they can add to it at this time, but we couldn't bring an item with more than 2 council members contributing their funds.
And how much was the total request?
The original request was $35,000. Last year we gave $15,000.
And then they raised the rest?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, other questions on this? All right, so we'll go ahead. Is there a motion to approve? Okay, there's a motion and a second. We can go ahead and take our vote. Thank you, everyone. It's approved. We will now move on to item E3. Council, are we doing okay? Anyone need a break? Okay. We'll move on to item E3.
Do we need a long report on this one?
I don't think so. There may be some questions.
Sure.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Tamara Fuhrer, Transportation and Mobility Division Manager, and I'm joined here with David Fenn, Senior Planner, and Helen Collins, Public Works Director. Would you like a presentation, or do you want us to just go to?
Yes, Councilmember Meister would like at least a brief presentation.
Okay, great. David will be giving the presentation, and then we'll be available for questions.
It's in the July 20th folder.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. I'm David Fenn, Senior Planner in the Transportation and Mobility Division, and this is a brief presentation on the West Side COG bus connection project. So our recommendations are, background on this project is the West Side City's COG has a goal to deliver bus infrastructure upgrades to the West Side's busiest corridors ahead of the LA 28 Games. This is using Metro Measure M sub-regional equity funds, which the COG has dedicated to bus speed and reliability improvements for several years. In West Hollywood, the La Cienega corridor was identified as one of those 3 corridors, and following previous council and Transportation Commission direction to advocate for that corridor as part of this process, city staff have been supporting that effort. The current segment under consideration on La Cienega is in West Hollywood, Los Angeles, and Beverly Hills, primarily along La Cienega, but detouring slightly around Venice Boulevard following the route of the Metro 105 bus route. And it would also provide first last mile access to the Wilshire La Cienega Metro D-Line station and the La Cienega Jefferson E-Line station. The West Side COG consultant is recommending all-day bus bike lanes on both sides of La Cienega Boulevard from Santa Monica Boulevard to Venice Boulevard, just south of Santa Monica Boulevard to Venice Boulevard. In West Hollywood, this would require removing 1 travel lane in each direction. That could be an all-day treatment or a peak hour treatment. And the consultant recommendation also includes queue-jump transit signals at Santa Monica and Melrose, which give buses a head start through those intersections. And cumulatively, those changes would result in 9 minutes of transit travel time savings in the southbound direction and approximately 10 minutes in the northbound direction. This table is also in your report, but summarizes the transit travel time savings by segment as well as the vehicle travel time impacts. So for example, from Romaine to San Vicente, a 4-minute transit travel time savings in the northbound direction would be produced by making that change, but that would result in a 3-minute vehicle travel time impact, and with slightly less of an impact on the southbound, only a 1-minute travel time impact for vehicles with a similar travel time savings. The COG also looked at other alternatives for this corridor. This includes a southbound only bus bike lane that would be accomplished by reallocating lane widths. It wouldn't remove travel lanes, but it would come at a higher cost because it would require signal changes to account for the offset lanes, and obviously it would only provide a benefit in one direction. Another alternative that was analyzed was removing center turn lanes and widening parking lanes to allow bus bike lanes in the peak hour. That would also have trade-offs in terms of making it more challenging to make turns off of the corridor. And there's also the possibility of non-bus lane changes, such as transit signal priority alone, which is something we already have on the Route 4 on Santa Monica Boulevard, but does not currently exist on La Cienega. Our staff recommendation is to provide the COG direction to proceed with design of all-day transit priority lanes on both sides of La Cienega from Santa Monica to Venice, but making that direction contingent on the participation of the City of Los Angeles, contingent on the West Side City's COG absorbing all capital costs for construction, and including traffic calming improvements to local street connections to La Cienega from adjacent neighborhoods. We're also recommending that we work with Metro and the COG to seek increased frequency on line 105, which currently has 10-minute peak hour frequency, to bring that down to 7.5-minute peak hour frequency, which is something we know that LADOT is also interested in. And that's the end of my brief presentation, but we can answer any questions. Thank you.
There are 2 public speakers, Kevin Burton to be followed by Helen Krieger.
Good evening, council members. Kevin Burton, resident of West Hollywood and co-founder of the West Hollywood Bicycle Coalition. We strongly support staff's recommendation of 24-hour bus bike lanes both directions on La Cienega Boulevard. This has a lot of advantages. One thing I would suggest is that the lanes not just be bus bike, but bus bike emergency vehicle lanes, because those lanes will remain open 24 hours a day for emergency services to get around any congestion, and that's a big advantage of such dedicated lanes. This is a quick build operation, the idea being, coming out of the COG, that the construction will be complete by the time of the Olympics, because a lot of the visitors who will be here in 2028 will expect to be able to use public transportation to get around Los Angeles, and obviously there's a need to avoid extra congestion at that time. But going beyond that, the dedicated bike lanes on La Cienega, which would be the Route 105 for us, will allow rapid, reliable transit down to Wilshire Boulevard and the new D-Line station. This is going to be good for bus riders. That reliability allows for an increase in frequency of the buses, again, making bus travel much more attractive. And for bicyclists, this is very good too, because as is the case elsewhere, bicycles can also use these lanes, go down more rapidly, more safely to their destinations, including the subway. They can put their bikes on the buses, again, using them to get to other forms of transportation. So this is really part of a network of bicycle, bus, train, transit that can get people to destinations around the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Helen Krieger.
Hi, good evening, Council. I just wanted to ask you to please support the staff at the West Side COG's recommendation for the 24/7 dedicated bus bike lanes. We have billions of dollars of infrastructure now so close to us, but not quite in West Hollywood yet. with the D line. But of course, there is a lot of trouble in having our first mile, last mile connection to that D line. So we rely on the bus, we rely on trying to get there by bike, but there are no north-south bike routes leading to the D line from anywhere in West Hollywood. And the consistent problem with that has been that most of that is area that we don't have jurisdiction over, right? Like you just go a couple blocks north and all of a sudden you're outside of West Hollywood. I think that this proposal goes through 4 different districts. So very rarely are we ever going to have a time again where we have a time deadline to bring all those districts together, all those municipalities together to decide upon something. The Olympics and the Paralympics is the time where we're able to get everybody together and we're able to do these improvements at a cost that is neutral to us. And this would be a huge increase in our transportation system. Talking to some folks who came for Pride, they said that they were so excited to like take the D line and then take the bus on La Cienega, and they got down here no problem. And then after the parade, the bus was late, and they waited for hours, and then finally they just started walking up La Cienega, which was a very long walk after also going up and down Pride. Think about that during the Olympics. The Olympics is Pride again and again. So this is a really great opportunity for us to increase our transit, which will decrease vehicle miles traveled. This is a great way for us to do a bike connection, which we've desperately needed. Also, as Kevin pointed out, a great way for our emergency vehicles to have faster response times to folks, a way to reduce our vehicle miles traveled and our greenhouse gases, because in California, our greenhouse gases, that's 40% of our state emissions, so it's not insignificant. You have a lot of hard choices. This one is an easy one.
Thank you. We'll turn to council questions. Yeah, Councilmember Meister.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. So the 105, that's what we're talking about here, right? It starts and ends at Division 7. So how many people are we actually talking about that we're picking up and basically where the start, right, of the route? Is that right?
I mean, the start of the route would depend which direction you're going, but yes, one of the ends
We're
is
the
West
start
Hollywood,
or the
yes.
end, right?
Yeah.
Are we the end also?
Yes. Depending on the direction, yes.
Okay, so my point is, how many West Hollywood residents is this actually helping?
We don't have information on what percentage of the 105 riders are West Hollywood residents or residents of other cities.
So we don't know how many people, we haven't seen like at bus stops, you know, like tons of people waiting for the bus or?
We can follow up and get more information for you on the number of riders in terms of what's available.
Okay, so La Cienega has, there are 2 places where there are 2 lanes making left turns onto La Cienega. Going into those lanes, there's Santa Monica Boulevard, the left turn going onto La Cienega, and Melrose, there's 2 lanes going into. Where are those, where are the ones that are in the, on the right lane going left, where are they going into? Are they going into that bus lane?
If we can pull the slide up again, I have some, there we go. So we got this question at Transportation Commission, and since then we've gotten these draft 30% design drawings. So this is Santa Monica Boulevard is the vertical street here, where we have 2 left turn lanes turning south from westbound Santa Monica to southbound La Cienega. The proposal from the COGS consultant is for the bus lane and the southbound direction to not start immediately at Santa Monica Boulevard. So we would still have 2 lanes for vehicle traffic for the first, I'm not sure exactly the distance, but say half a block of La Cienega, and then vehicles that are coming from the outer right turn lane turning onto the southbound Santa Monica would have to merge into the center lane further south after making the turn onto Santa Monica Boulevard, onto La Cienega. So you can see there that they're on the north side, or sorry, on the top side, which is the outermost lane, that arrow is indicating to motorists that they would be merging across to the center lane.
And what about Melrose?
It's a similar situation. I don't think I have a screenshot of that one here.
Are they going to make a part of that block also not?
I think on Melrose, the solution is a little different, where the COG's recommendation is that the bus lane replaces the outer travel lane in most areas, but south of Melrose, I believe they're recommending a short segment where the bus lane would be in the parking lane so to accommodate those turn vehicles, and then the buses would merge across the travel lane, or the vehicles would merge into the other travel lane in a similar configuration.
So we would be taking away parking spaces?
For a short
basically.
segment south of Melrose, yes.
Okay, and actually, how many blocks is this? Because we know that LA, first of all, is on the east side of La Cienega, right? And then, so we go from south of Santa Monica, but not right south because we have to let the people come in from their left turn. And then we go down to Beverly, right? Because Beverly is where, pretty much around where.
We have a very small segment of it. We have, say, a block, half a block. I mean, the line is there. The city limit line is on the image here, right? A couple of, just before Romaine, essentially, is the city limit line here.
Yeah.
And then on Melrose, we have a short segment as well, and it's LA in between. And then south of our segment on Melrose, it's LA again, and then it's Beverly Hills. So that's why our recommendations are contingent on Los Angeles participation, because our segment alone would not provide advantages.
But does it even, for one, what is it, like 4 blocks? I mean, we're talking about maybe 4 blocks.
Something like that.
Something like that, 4 or 5 blocks, and for 1 to 3 minutes. Is this worth this conversation? I mean, I know, it's a rhetorical question. Okay. I think those are my questions for right now.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
I'm happy to give comment.
Yes, Councilmember Erickson.
Thank you to all the members of the public that spoke, and thank you to staff. I myself want to thank Councilmember Byers for being on the West Side City's COG, both chair and now member, for helping make sure this issue got through. And I know that through collaboration with Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, our surrounding cities, it is a multi-purpose approach. I want to go back to one of the questions that you were asked specifically about how many residents this is serving. We are a city that defines our residents as people that work, live, and play here. So it's almost impossible to get us an accurate number any day as people are running towards our buses, trying to find a better way to get to and from this congested city at every way, shape, and form. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, this is a comprehensive, thorough, community-vetted process that has gone through. Myself was here walking through the community meeting room or wherever it was, ensuring that people had the opportunity to weigh in. And I know they did that in Beverly Hills, Culver City, and then all over the west side. And so, you know, I ultimately think that not only we do need more bus rapid transit lanes, but bus lanes in general, because we all know that even though we want and support Metro, I hope all of us do, it's going to be a longer time for that process to go by and go through. And so, especially for the Olympics, a no-car Olympics specifically, this is what people are going to do to comment back on what I think Helen Krieger was mentioning, that this is something that we need to set up now. Additionally, it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councilmember Byers, an EV-friendly bus Olympics. And so the types of buses that we are actually getting and the COG is trying to secure are non-gas powered buses that we're actually trying to actively route. So, because I do believe the Olympics has a very standard, a very specific carbon-free requirement. And so I'm in full support of this item. I think I've spoken to a number of residents who use the bus, and I've actually ride the bus myself, you know, down the 4, wherever we got to go. And it is good public policy and good public transportation and forward-thinking ideas like this that not only join all of our cities together, but also get us to those other types of more faster alternative options, whether that be the D line or wherever else. And so, look, you can sit there and tell me 100 people use this from West Hollywood, 100 people out of their cars, 100 people that need a bus, 100 people that can't afford a car. That's what we need to do to make sure we continue to promote other options than cars in our city and our region. So I intend to make the motion if allowed to, and I intend to vote for this item tonight.
I'm sorry, I had one more question, and that's when they were doing these studies, did anyone actually sit and watch how the traffic works on La Cienega between Santa Monica and Beverly. The businesses, the valets, the Ubers, the valets who run across that street, as soon as those businesses are open, did anyone actually watch the real life experience on that street?
So the consultant team definitely did field visits. They did time trials of how long it took on transit and driving to validate their modeling efforts. I personally also, ride that route daily, the 105, to get here, and walked the corridor as part of this project several times. So we're definitely aware of the operational challenges.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for the presentation. I see Riley O'Brien, our trustee lead at the COG, in the back of the room too. This is truly a regional effort, and it's really exciting to have reached this point of the discussion. I am fully in support of staff's recommendation. I prefer the all day over the peak hour. I think it's a better use. I think especially when we hear Councilmember Meister's reminder of how active the La Cienega corridor is, this creation of all-day bus lanes only creates a safety measure. It'll slow down the traffic in that corridor, and that's a good thing, especially if we have valets running across the street. I really appreciate the work of the consultant. I know that the COG received dozens doesn't sound sufficient. I think it was hundreds and hundreds of letters from across the region about how important these lanes are. There was an amount of work taken to identify a potential number of corridors that could experience this treatment, and the 3 that you see before you are the ones that are the most feasible. So we have a rare opportunity to create this sort of accelerated transit connection in our only north to south area that connects to the D line here in the city, and I think that's something that we should be excited to invest in. We saw as part of the staff recommendation, though, that there's a number of contingencies. It's not West Hollywood alone that'll make this decision on behalf of the region. The city of LA is doing their homework. The city of Beverly Hills will see this on a council agenda item. For us, I don't think it makes any sense as the starting point of this line to take our domino out. I want us to be a firm yes in this, but I want us to also think of an additional contingency should the city of Beverly Hills, the city of Los Angeles not be willing to participate to the extent we are. I would like us as a city to ask that the West Side COG look at considering a bike-only lane if a bus only 24/7 lane is infeasible. I know that may take direction at the COG to reallocate funding, but I do think, and I hear loudly, that our community and communities who depend on travel and safe travel to West Hollywood have been asking for a better first to last mile connect. And if a bus is infeasible per the decision of other cities, then I think we as a city should ask for support to create at least a bike connection that is safe and accessible to that region. And I know this is a quick build, which means as a city we aren't in charge of all the different details of it, and we may have gone about it much differently, but this is a really unique opportunity to collaborate across the region and create something that is useful not just to us as a city, but to the entirety of the region, and I think there's a lot of utility in this. So again, thank you to everyone for the discussion. Thank you to the many, many people in the public who commented on this in the many different venues you could, and look forward to the conversation going back to the COG.
Vice Mayor Hang, any comments?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for the report. So I was really appreciative of the survey that was done to where respondents strongly supported dedicated bus lanes. I know, Tamar, you mentioned the quick build. Can you sort of just give a very high-level overview of what a quick build is and how long that would take?
Sure. So a quick build would be something that's staying within the curb to curb and could be put on the ground fairly quickly, usually using more temporary type materials and limited engineering changes. So thermoplast, for example, trying to remain within the signal design, so not really shift. I mean, you can shift some lanes, but not making those major changes, and that can be done in the matter of the actual construction itself could be done in the matter of a few months.
And then you mentioned when we spoke today, you mentioned you gave an example of a city that did a quick build around us.
Yeah, so most recently on the Culver Boulevard and Washington Boulevard corridor as part of MOVE, when they went from the bus lane and bike lane being separate to the combined mobility lane, actually getting it on the ground. So basically shaving off the top layer and putting it back in was done in a matter of about, I'd like to say about 2 months of the actual like on the ground construction once the contractor team was stood up.
So theoretically, I would like to see this as a cost neutral approach, but we don't really know where we're at with the West Side Cog yet, correct?
Correct. So we put in several contingencies, as Councilmember Byers mentioned, because to have the benefit to residents, we need the participation of, at a minimum, City of LA, because our segment does go in and out of Los Angeles, and then we also brought up the contingency of the cost neutrality and traffic calming.
I mean, I am in favor I want to keep it simple, right? I'm in favor for the 24/7 bus line. It keeps things, it makes it much easier for drivers to understand them versus changes during various times of the day when the rules can change. So that confuses drivers and it could possibly confuse travelers as well. You know, buses run all day and night. Like transit isn't just for commuters who drive cars. People actually use the bus to go to work, to go get their groceries, to take care of their family. And I think having a dedicated bus line would keep the buses running and likely on schedule. And if we're going to host the world in 2028, then we need to have the infrastructure to make this a car-free Olympic, because that is what Mayor Bass said she wanted for our region, to have a car-free Olympic. And to use actual vehicles that are EV that don't emit any type of combustibles in the environment. I think this is what we need to move forward. And I believe Mr. Burton said earlier that having a dedicated lane would also have a dedicated lane for emergency access as well. So that is another plus. And you know, and if it's there, people are more inclined to take advantage of it. So it is my hope that the city, at the very least, the city of Los Angeles is a willing partner in this process, as well as the city of Beverly Hills, because I don't want to have a patchwork of just LA and WeHo, and then like you're kind of screwed once you get to the Beverly Hills line. So I really hope that, you know, should the will of the council decide that in this direction, that you and your team will work very hard with your LA counterparts and your Beverly Hills counterparts to make this a reality for, you know, our residents here in the city that do take public transportation, and also that we're doing our part to make this 2028 Olympics a car-free Olympics. I mean, I know that the mayor and I have been working very hard on Olympics for West Hollywood, and this would just, you know, add to it to make it a successful event for our city. Thank you.
I have
Councilmember
quick,
Meister.
thank you. A quick question for Helen. Helen, can you explain what a queue jump is, and do we have any in the city right now, and how do we educate people about what they are?
Okay, I can answer part of the question. I'm going to answer the part that says we currently do not have any in the city, and then I'm going to bring Richard Garland up to explain exactly what a queue jumper is, because I might mess it up a little bit.
Good evening, Council. Oh, wrong mic. A queue jump is essentially about a, 50 to 100 foot piece of street, segment of street approaching the traffic signal. And what it does, does not allow other vehicles other than the buses to use that short segment. And they call it a queue jump because if there's a line of traffic behind the red light, the bus can go over to that right lane against the curb and go right up to the traffic signal, so that when the light turns green, they're ready to go, instead of waiting behind a line of cars. So that's all it means. And to create it, you either have to sacrifice a lane, like a right turn lane, or a row of parking spaces to create that, say, 100-foot long space.
So we would have to do that to do these queue jumpers then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple of questions. One, first of all, the discussion seems to some degree center on having this so that there are bus riders, but we already have the 105 bus, correct? And it runs every 10 minutes. And you're talking about trying to bring that down to every 7 minutes? Why is 10 minutes is not long to wait for a bus? Why is it so critical that we reduce the wait time to 7 minutes?
So the primary goal with the lanes is to speed up how long it takes once you get on the bus to get to your destination, so the bus isn't stuck in traffic. The bus lanes are not so much for reducing the headways and improving the frequencies. That's a separate recommendation that we're just suggesting that Metro could improve the service given its new importance as a first last mile connection to come more often. And the 7.5 minute suggestion is something that LADOT is interested in, and as part of the justification for the bus lanes to make it worth it in their eyes in terms of the impacts to other modes.
To elaborate on that a little bit, one is that the minimum for BRT per DOT's guidelines is once every 10 minutes, but also if you think about the transit journey from door to door, the more time that you're sitting waiting for a bus, the longer your travel time is compared to getting in your own vehicle, driving from one point to another. So if you're waiting less time, now taking transit is considered a more attractive alternative. So again, it's not a commitment from the city, but more of a we're joining forces with other agencies to suggest that Metro increases the frequency of this line to make it a more useful alternative to riders.
And sorry, I also forgot to mention the other thing with lanes, apart from improving the end-to-end travel time, is also about reliability. Because the schedules are one thing, but one of the challenges with the 105 now is because of congestion along the route, you may be expecting a bus to come every 10 minutes, but it may get stuck somewhere along the route in traffic, and you may be waiting a lot longer in reality than the expected scheduled frequency. So that's part of the benefit of lanes and these other improvements, is providing that reliability and certainty for riders to make it a more compelling alternative.
I think my problem with this is that La Cienega has major problems, and it always has. And it seems like the goal here is to address problems and make it easier for buses, but make it more difficult for everyone else who is utilizing their car on La Cienega. I live on La Cienega outside of the area that would have these bus lanes, so I'm not personally affected in that regard, but I've driven on La Cienega for a long time, and I can tell you one of the problems is the timing of the light at Pico. Anyone who drives La Cienega going south, you're always going to get stuck at Olympic because they prioritize the left turn and east-west traffic at La Cienega and Pico. And LA could also address the practically speed bumps along that area where there have been trench cuts and they weren't properly repaired. The intersection of Fairfax and La Cienega is also a bottleneck. Waze and other apps tell you to actually turn on Washington and then turn on Fairfax and then get back on La Cienega because there's no proper merging of Fairfax and La Cienega. And I understand that we want to speed up the experience for bus riders, but what about everyone else? It seems like we're not addressing the problems that everyone else has. And as Councilmember Meister said, there are problems with valets, people using the through lanes for valets. And there doesn't seem to be any enforcement in the city of LA when people are doing that and traffic backs up. I mean, that affects buses, but it also affects every other driver. I don't support trying to expedite bus traffic at the expense of other users. I think this is another fountain bike lane issue where there has not been proper outreach. You're now talking about putting in a bike lane on La Cienega. the neighbors that I've spoken to in my building are still furious about the bike lanes on Fountain. And I think the same sort of evaluation that's been done here in terms of public sentiment is the same problem we talked about before, and you've just repeated it. I don't think there's any statistically valid survey that you've presented. You have demonstrated once again the problem of self-selection. Who's going to come to a community meeting? Not the average commuter. It's going to be people who have a particular point of view already. So that's part of the problem with this proposal in my mind. You rely in the staff report on what the members of the public support, but you're not capturing all of the members of the public. You capture bus riders, you've captured a number of cyclists, but did you survey drivers? I don't think so. And I think that's part of why I find this objectionable. If you survey the building owners, they're going to say, we don't want to lose parking. If you survey bus riders, they're going to say, yes, we want to get there faster. If you survey drivers, they're going to say, we want to get there faster too. So I find the entire report and analysis questionable. And I know that this is being led by the West Side COG. I hope the other cities have more sense and reject this. There are things that we can do to try to improve La Cienega for everyone, but we shouldn't be approving it just for one category and ignoring everyone else who uses that street. Councilmember Erickson.
Thank you. So I want to speak about, I guess, so we're supposed to trust people that come to one community meeting because they agree with your side and not another community meeting because they agree with another side. The back and forth, I'm like getting whiplash. It's like I'm driving down Fairfax south of Willoughby and it's so horrific because it's in the city of LA. It's like, what are we going to do here? It's like, am I not supposed to believe the individuals that come and want different housing solutions because they're the only ones that come to our meetings and sit there and demand we do something? Where are all the renters? Where are all the people that can't go to a meeting and, sit there for hours and hours on end? You can't sit there and say, I want to trust this group and not this group. And I understand your arguments, but, Fountain had so many surveys. I don't even know how many there have been. And so Fountain had outreach out the wazoo. At the end of the day, we don't even have bike lanes on Fountain, and we probably won't for quite some time because there's first of all, the AI data slop that's always put out there by members of the public just continues to baffle me by the fact of false reporting. But at the end of the day, we have to trust in what we're doing, and just because, and for the record, I was at the public meeting in the ARC, and there were many people there who I recognized, I will not name them, who do not want bike lanes on Fountain, who were speaking very favorably of the bus lanes on La Cienega, because that's how close-knit this community is. I exactly know who these people are, and you can't sit there and say one thing and I'm just not supposed to trust you because you ride a bus. Give me a break. So I'm sorry. I'm going to make a motion to approve this item and move forward. I believe that it's already been approved by the other cities, and I hope that we can move forward with this. And I look forward to whatever council candidates continue to drastically badger this up for the next 6 months when they're trying to falsify records for the next election. I'm sure some are in the audience tonight.
I seconded the motion. Just to be clear, the City of Beverly Hills hasn't put this on their agenda yet, and the City of LA still hasn't discussed it, so we're first in line, which is why I think it's important that we as a city set a strong tone about why we want to pass this. I certainly hear the mayor's concerns, and I think in knowing that, we're choosing to invest in a project here in support for a regional project that we believe will have tangible and meaningful regional benefits. It's offering my second. Thank you.
I just want to clarify for the record, I didn't say I didn't trust bus riders. I do trust people. I said that the survey information that we had was inaccurate because it had the problem of self-selection. And that's a different criticism of the information that we received. There's been a motion and the second. Is there further discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and take the roll. The recommendation is approved 3-2. All right, and we'll now move on. Melissa? Okay, we'll go ahead and take a break. How many speakers do we have on the next item?
4, Mayor.
All right. Apologize, we're going to take a brief break. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. To get back to work here. Thank you. All right. Okay. All right, thank you, everyone. We're back in session. We're now going to turn to our last item of business, and that is F4. No, I'm sorry. Oops, E4. Thank you. Danny, are you going to give the staff report?
I am, yes, Mayor. And good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. I'm Danny Rivas, Director of Community Safety for the City of West Hollywood. Also joining on this item is Lauren Langer, our City Attorney. We have Captain Fanny Lapkin from our West Hollywood Sheriff Station, as well as Trevor Chandler, a Senior Director of Public Affairs with Flock Safety. So tonight's report returns to the City Council following your direction from March 16th regarding the city's automated license plate reader, or ALPR program, and our professional services agreement with Flock Safety. At that meeting, the City Council directed staff to negotiate stronger contractual protections with Flock Safety, strengthen administrative controls over data sharing, develop a formal city ALPR policy, and increase transparency and public oversight. So I'm pleased to report that staff has completed each of those directives. So beginning with the agreement itself, over the past several months, community safety staff worked closely with the City Attorney's Office and Flock Safety to negotiate significant amendments that strengthen the city's ownership, control, and oversight of the ALPR data. Among those most significant changes are an explicit prohibition against voluntarily sharing city-owned ALPR data with federal immigration agencies, including ICE and Customs and Border Protection, unless disclosure is legally required by a valid court order. Immediate notification requirements whenever Flock receives a subpoena, warrant, court order, or other governmental request for city data, given the city the opportunity to review the requests whenever legally permissible. Expanded audit reporting has also been included, and stronger contractual remedies, including material breach provisions, termination rights, indemnification, and liquidated damages of $200,000 for each unauthorized disclosure. Collectively, these amendments substantially strengthen the city's protections beyond what existed in the original agreement. In addition to the contract changes, staff implemented enhanced administrative safeguards governing how ALPR data is shared. Under these procedures, no California law enforcement agency receives access automatically. An agency requesting access must first submit a written request, identify a legitimate law enforcement purpose, certify compliance with California law and the city's proposed policy, and receive written authorization from the city's designated administrator. Staff will also conduct monthly audits with the West Hollywood Sheriff Station to review system access and ensure compliance. Staff also developed a formal city ALPR camera policy, which is attached to the staff report for council consideration. The policy formally prohibits city-owned ALPR data from being used for immigration enforcement purposes and prohibits city employees, contractors, or authorized users from assisting federal immigration enforcement through city-owned ALPR data, except where legally required. The policy also establishes oversight procedures, audit requirements, reporting responsibilities, and accountability measures for any violations. To improve transparency, staff is recommending several new public reporting measures. Beginning this year, ALPR information will be included in the Community Safety Department's semi-annual reports to the City Council. These reports will summarize system usage, audit findings, public safety outcomes, and any policy violations. In addition, the city's policy, audit process, and frequently asked questions will be published on the city's Safer WeHo website. And staff will conduct community outreach sessions explaining how the technology operates and the safeguards now in place. As a result of questions being asked from staff regarding AOPR program measurable public safety benefits, staff did prepare a memo that was accompanied this evening's staff report. And this memo is attached online as well for public view. So since your last discussion on March 16th, the city's AOPR system has assisted in recovering approximately 40 additional stolen vehicles, bringing the total to 215 stolen vehicle recoveries since the program was implemented roughly 3 years ago. Beyond vehicle recovery, the system has assisted detectives at our West Hollywood Sheriff Station in several significant criminal cases. Recent examples include locating a suspect who allegedly brandished a firearm during a road rage incident, identifying multiple suspects involved in a grand theft investigations, recovering a stolen vehicle that had been spray painted with altered license plates to evade detection, and assisting in the apprehension of suspects involved in an armed robbery investigation initiated by the Los Angeles Police Department. These examples illustrate how the technology supports criminal investigations, improves interagency coordination, and assists law enforcement in apprehending individuals involved in serious crimes. We also received a request regarding unauthorized access to city data. So staff did confirm with the West Hollywood Sheriff Station as the date of the staff report this evening that there has been no unauthorized access to the city's AOPR data. Additionally, the Sheriff Station confirmed there has been no unauthorized out-of-state access to the city's AOPR system. So in closing, staff believes these negotiated amendments establish one of the strongest municipal governance frameworks for AOPR technology currently in use in California. They significantly strengthen privacy protections, reinforce local control over city-owned data, increase transparency and accountability, and preserve the important public safety benefits that this technology has demonstrated for our community. Accordingly, staff recommends that the City Council approve the negotiated amendments to the professional services agreement with Flock Safety as proposed by staff, adopt the proposed city AOPR camera policy as proposed by staff this evening, and direct staff to negotiate comparable protections for the city's live video camera agreement with Flock. And lastly, continue implementation of the enhanced transparency and reporting measures described in this evening's report. So that concludes staff's presentation, and the representatives that I mentioned early on are available for any questions.
Great, thank you. We do have 4 speakers on this. Should we hear from the speakers first? Nick Roybal, to be followed by Audrey Henson, and then Christoph Aldendorfer.
Good evening, Council. You've heard these 3 gaps twice now. First, the contract binds Flock, not LASD. Once a deputy pulls data, nothing here governs where it goes inside the sheriff's own systems. Second, the court-ordered carve-out is the exception that swallows the rule. Every past Flock breach, including the 2025 CBP HSI pilot that gave federal agents backdoor access to local data nationwide, ran through exactly that kind of legal channel. Third, enforcement here is discretionary. Violations may result in discipline. That's not a safeguard, that's a suggestion. Staff's memo today claims no unauthorized access has occurred, confirmed by the same sheriff station being asked to police itself. That's not oversight. That's gap 3 in practice. LAPD just walked away from the same company over unresolved data ownership's terms. Not proven misuse, just risk. Too undefined to accept. If their own audit found no formal privacy agreements in place, I would ask why this council should feel more confident moving forward than LAPD did walking away. This isn't a hypothetical. This vote has names attached to it and real harm behind it. Survivors of stalking and domestic violence, who ALPR networks are a documented vector for abuse against, including by people with law enforcement access. Our trans residents and siblings, at a moment when the federal government doesn't need a court order to do harm, just access. And last and most important, our immigrant families, who this contract's court order carve-out still leaves exposed.
Thank you. Audrey Henson to be followed by Christoph Aldendorfer and then James Croak.
Hello. My name is Audrey Henson, and I'm an independent journalist who covers data sovereignty. My work asks 3 questions: who owns our information, who can reach it, and what the law permits in the space between those 2 answers. Tonight, that space is attachment B of the city's revised contract with Flock. The staff report promises safeguards. The revised contract narrowly redefines or omits altogether. So I am asking you, on the record, to withhold the approval of this contract until the following concerns are appropriately addressed. First, the staff report claims ICE and CBP may only receive our data pursuant to a valid court order, but the contract adds "or by applicable law" in Section 462, which, as we know, is a far wider door. Second, Section 464 offers $200,000 as the city's sole and exclusive remedy, only to then excuse court orders, task force access, and any, quote, circumvention of Flock's controls. This remedy answers to a breach it effectively would not punish. Page 5 of the March 16th staff report states, "We saw one of these breaches happen recently, finding out 14 out-of-state agencies, including one federal, had addressed over 26 months of our plate data, and then the city was never notified." I would be curious to ask the city attorney whether this remedy would actually pay the city $1 if those 14 agencies were to return tomorrow. Lastly, Section 4.2 grants Flock a perpetual, irrevocable license to our data, with Section 4.5 permitting the training of machine learning algorithms on said data without the promise of anonymization. Why are we lowering the definition by adding "wherever possible" to anonymization? Every generation inherits a technology whose conveniences arrive before its consequences are understood. Leadership means confronting them while prevention is still possible. Tonight, prevention is still possible. It only costs a few revisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Christoph Aldendorfer to be followed by James Croak.
Hello, Christoph, Eastside. Nice to meet those who I haven't and see those who I have before. Public safety is a crucial aspect of any jurisdiction, and I really do want the LA Sheriff's Department to be able to do their jobs effectively. But Flock should not be part of that equation at all. I want to focus on the human rights aspect here, but I'm also a hardware and software engineer and an educator. So if they're willing, I would be delighted to talk to the council members about the cybersecurity related risks that are associated with these systems. I'll reach out. So let's focus on what we do know, which you've heard already. Flock is a private mass surveillance company that has consistently proven itself undeserving of public trust. We know they've handed data over to ICE without warrants. We know that they're comfortable with customers using their platform to stalk women who are seeking abortions. And I'm sure the city has worked really hard on strengthening the contract, but a hardened contract does not ensure behavioral change. So the only logical path forward from my standpoint is to cancel the contract entirely, remove all the hardware from the city, and then circle back and restart the conversation about making sure that WeHo stays safe, because I really do want WeHo to be safe. And before we get stuck in the sunk cost fallacy here, remember that cities make mistakes. Consider this one just an expensive mistake. I'm an educator. This is a learning experience. We can do better. LA City has paused their contract. Santa Cruz has ended theirs, even ring-backed out of a partnership with Flock. And remember that WeHo was formed to protect people in it, and it's a progressive place. So we really need to take a socially progressive human rights and privacy approach to match it. Flock ain't it, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. James Croak.
Hi, James Croak. So when we go into a relationship with anybody, we should consider all aspects. So investors who helped get Flock come around are Peter Thiel, who believes that democracy and freedom are incompatible. He moved from the US to Argentina because of the increased surveillance and danger. Argentina, coincidentally, happened to be a Nazi refuge after World War II, probably not related. Tay Stevens, who sits on the board of Innovation Board, who advises the Secretary of Defense. He is somebody, so he has federal connections. Bedrock Capital, which has Army contracts. Andreessen Horowitz, who has a fund dedicated to defense, policing, and border security startups. All it takes is one change in opinion in the chain of command, and we see and are in the middle of an authoritarian federal regime brutalizing the constitutional rights of citizens, and to be increasing their power and reach in the first years of the first year and a half of a second term is kind of absolutely insane from my perspective. I really, really, really appreciate Captain Lapkin's choice to be preemptive and get ahead of it and shut people out initially. But just so we're clear, cities have found that Flock still has access to those. Even after ending contracts, they still had access to those cameras and that data. They were still, they lied to people. Even city councils that vote them out of the city, they go around them and still do things within that city as well. And so when you consider a federally tied funding AI startup company who's tied to some of the technology that's happening that is absolutely destroying civil liberties, privacy, and all this other stuff, to me, it just doesn't make sense. I would rather invest in putting up our own cameras, getting our own software that can do this type of thing, because it's really not that hard. I'm not into the nationwide thing, because then we don't get to control it. And the judges have been implemented by Trump and his cronies, so they can get a warrant pretty easily.
Thank you. That's our last speaker on this item. Are there any position slips?
No, Mayor, there aren't.
All right, thank you. Let's turn to council discussion. Are there any questions for our staff? We've discussed this before, so maybe we're just ready to vote? I don't know. No. Okay.
I'll ask my question. Danny, do you have any insight into what LAPD is doing right now?
You know, I'd like to defer that to Trevor Chandler, the Flock safety representative, to speak to that. He would have more information. Trevor, if you could come to the podium.
Thank you.
Mayor, Council, I'm Trevor Chandler, Senior Director of Public Affairs for Flock. In regards to the LAPD situation, it's very important to note the LAPD situation is not solely about Flock. They are reviewing all contracts with all ALPR vendors. Ours just happened to come up first. And so this is a situation where they're having the same conversation they're having with us, with Axon and Motorola, their other ALPR vendors. We are very confident that as the conversation continues, basically what the LA is doing is exactly what WeHo just did by doing a deep dive into the contract, having their law enforcement and legal teams talk with us, go line by line, exactly as the West Hollywood City Council and attorney has done. And now, in some ways, LA is catching up to you. And so you all are kind of ahead of the bar on that. And we fully expect that those conversations are going to be productive and those cameras within LA will be able to be used by the LAPD in short order.
Thank you. Other questions for staff?
Sure, yeah, I have a question. One of the public speakers, I believe it was Audrey, thank you so much, detailed 3 different provisions that are missing in the contract. When we hear that sort of information come up, how is the city taking into account that feedback? I think part of the issue and the concern that we're hearing from people with backgrounds that are, in journalism in this space. We're hearing information and feedback. I would like to be able to see that incorporated into these contracts or reviewed in a more thorough way as we get that information. And I'm aware that we as a city have already had these ALPR cameras up, and we're in a process right now of creating a policy that is more responsive. So when we hear more responsive comments like this from the community, what is our process for incorporating something like those into this?
Yeah, absolutely, Councilmember Byers. As you know, bringing the item back in March, that would have obviously been a great opportunity, and I know there was several public comment that was made, but definitely receiving that input and feedback, and then consulting with our city attorney's office to see if there is something that we can continue to discuss, right, with our vendor, if there's an ability to kind of strengthen that language and assess that. And so definitely hearing all the comments is definitely that we take very serious, especially with our public safety technology. So, we can definitely look into these 3 sections as mentioned and continue in our conversation with the city attorney's office if that's the will of the majority of council for us to do so.
Thanks for that. A couple more questions. In the memo that you provided this afternoon, you shared some of the contributions from Flock that have resulted in, crime investigations, pursuit, that sort of thing. Do we have an audit of, or maybe we have had any experience with Flock hits that haven't resulted or have been not found to be true?
I'll defer to the captain.
I will answer this. Good evening. So our standard protocol and procedures is if we get a hit, I'm going to do it in quotes, from Flock, we still have to confirm it and verify it in our department resources. So we have a specific system that looks at vehicles. So even though Flock has it, it says, for example, Fanny's driving a stolen vehicle, I still have to double check it into our database to make sure that that's still current. We can't just go based on what Flock says. We still have to confirm it on our stolen vehicle system.
So it feels like a piece of redundancy then that I think is still creating a lot of gaps in the community that I'm hearing. And I think I had understood too that part of that check, that second check, is the Department of Justice. Is that correct?
It's part of our database that all law enforcement use to enter vehicles that are wanted for either they're stolen, either they're wanted in a confirmed crime. So they're either the dangerous or the felony dangerous. That's what we categorize them. And that's through the Department of Justice, yes. And that's all law enforcement uses that database.
And I think, and I sort of hear from people in the encroaching, era that we're in this federal government, that poses its own sense of concern and risk and exposure, as that we can't trust entirely what is happening under the DOJ at this time. But one last question, Danny, I think you mentioned in your report that the real-time watch cameras, another set of cameras that we have that are already up and operating in the city, maybe just some of them, not the entire package of them, that has a policy attached to it that we haven't thoroughly reviewed or seen yet as a council, correct?
That is correct.
So that will be coming at what point to this council?
Well, the focus of the item was referring to the license plate reader cameras, so that's what's before you this evening. However, there is a recommendation, right, in the staff report to allow the council to direct staff to, implement similar language, since we've already gone through this, right, for several months with Flock. So the idea would be, we've obviously taken that, and then we would utilize that and apply that to that other contract as well.
And when the real-time watch cameras started going up in March or even before that this year?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact date, but it was definitely this year.
Okay.
Early this year, I'd say the first quarter for sure.
And the technology conversation started like late 2024. I remember we were having the conversation in this sort of hopeful, maybe naive context, thinking that the Trump administration wouldn't in fact be taking office in January 2025 as they did. And I remember at that point, some community members, there was only a few people, but sort of forecasting the set of concerns that whatever direction we head under a federal administration that has less concerns and guardrails up for any human rights concerns, we're going to be at bigger state of threat. So we've been implementing pretty quickly and investing in our public resources a set of tools and technologies that we as a council haven't fully vetted and implemented a policy around safeguard and provision. So I just want to name that to the community. There's a set of fears and concerns that we as a council have moved really fast on a set of policies and tools and technologies, but without the policy piece of that. And I continue to have concerns that that's the case, knowing that there are 24/7 real-time watch cameras up in our community right now, a real-time watch center, and this council hasn't vetted or reviewed or approved a policy that goes with that. I think it continues to be a concern and is a rightful concern to our community, who's asking us to protect them in ways that are very specific and clear to me. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to continue happening on this. I have not been supportive of this program for reasons that continue to be that I think we are doing so much so quickly, and we have not aligned our policies with the practices yet, and we have not done so in a way that is creating the set of comforts and security that our community certainly deserves when it comes to something like safety. Thanks.
Can I ask a follow-up question? The Real Watch cameras, we do have a policy in place. I recall when we approved them, there were certain guidelines in terms of their use. And Fanny or Danny, I don't know if you can expand upon that at all.
The guidelines that we're using is it's the same guidelines as the ALPR, which they're not going to be used for immigration. They're not going to be used for any public First Amendment rights. You know, gatherings. Those live feed cameras are used for when crimes occur. So, for example, I could give several examples that we've used the live feed cameras. If you recall the bank robbery. The bank robbery was a perfect example of our deputies in the real-time watch center hearing the call come out, get the cameras that are near that area, and guide the deputies to where the suspect had, once the suspect had left the bank, and basically follow them until the deputies arrived and took him into custody. So,
okay, just the recommendation before us tonight with respect to the policy for the real-time watch cameras is to take the tightened language that we're using for the license plate readers and then graph that on to our existing policy and our existing agreement.
Correct.
Okay, now I understand that. Great, thank you. What? Yeah, Councilmember Erickson.
Can you step back up? I promise I won't grill you like the last time, because I already know how the vote's gonna go. So, like, where's all this coming from? Like, you were tracking abortion patients out of Texas, they're getting arrested, you're immigrant, I mean, I read a news story almost like every day, and they're not like in, you know, I won't name certain blogs or anything like we always get to read about, but like, they're like in credible news sources. So are they lying or what's going on? I mean, I know Texas is slightly different than California, but I like to bring a healthy level of skepticism to it, but I don't know, like I read into the abortion case and I was deeply troubled.
Absolutely. So a couple things. The first is, out of all of this, Flock is the most transparent law enforcement tool in the country. And that transparency has resulted in a lot of these very serious conversations that hadn't been had before around sharing between law enforcement agencies. And so you had some agencies in California, and you know, Flock has made very clear we could have communicated a lot of things better. You know, up until last year, it was our point of view that we were going to provide agencies with all the tools to be compliant with state law, but it wasn't necessarily our role to implement state law. So we were going to say, here's how you shut off sharing out of state, all of these things. What we have now said is we could have been much more proactive in simply shutting off access outside of the state. Because what happened was there was some agencies that, out of no malice, through one instance or another, ended up sharing out of state. In most cases, except for a single one, where the AG went to these cities and said, hey, your sharing needs to, you have these sharing settings on, and you need to turn them off. They said, didn't even realize that was happening for one reason or another, they shut it off. There's one city, El Cajon, who is fighting with the Attorney General's office. That's a very separate case. So we have proactively said that we could have done better in simply shutting off access outside of the state to make it easier for our agencies and prevent a lot of these tense conversations that are happening. The reason it was discovered is because of our permanent audit logs, because these had been made available. And in addition, that resulted in cases regarding the one in Texas, that resulted in some other cases where cities ended up having the serious conversations like WeHo just did, which is, what are our values? How do we want to use these tools in accordance with these values? Have a serious conversation both with the community and with your legal counsel to make that happen. And so that's, in short, I could go on and on. I realize we have limited time, but in short, that's what happened. There were things we absolutely could have done better that would have made this tough conversation a little easier. But over the course of what has happened, very important conversations have occurred that have allowed communities to have more buy-in into how these tools are being used.
But by your own admission just now, you essentially admitted that Flock was used to apprehend or further penalize a woman seeking an abortion.
I did not say that. That case in particular has a significant number of facets to it versus what the sheriff has said, what family has said. So I'm not making any claim to that.
Okay. What's going on with the class action lawsuit in San Francisco?
anyone can file a lawsuit at any time against anyone.
Yeah.
Any company in the country likely has at least one of these at some point. I have not heard of it moving forward in any sense. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion?
No, we should just vote. It's already going to be 3-2. So.
Okay. Well, I will jump in. I appreciate all the public comments tonight. Thank you for your advocacy. And I also have concerns about privacy, but I think they are adequately addressed in the tightened language that we have. I also think that the effectiveness of this program for public safety purposes is really clear. Approximately 70 stolen vehicles a year on average, and many of those vehicles were vehicles where people had weapons inside. The use of this for catching somebody involved with a bank robbery, I think that is certainly significant. You look at the reports that we receive, and we receive these updates pretty much every week or two. We get an update from the sheriff reporting on the fact that a vehicle was stopped based on flock because it was reported stolen out of another jurisdiction. And I believe that people coming into our city in stolen vehicles, they're not usually here to do something good. So I am supportive of this, but I do appreciate all of the work that you've done and the city attorney, and I appreciate the attention that you've done to the privacy concerns that have been raised. So I think we are ready to take a vote on this. I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve staff's recommendation. It's been seconded. Let's go ahead and take a vote. And the motion is approved 3-2. Thank you, everyone. That completes all of our agenda items. We will now turn to excluded consent calendar. There isn't any. Do we have additional public comment, Melissa?
We have one individual, Kyle Brazil.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you. Kyle Brazil, resident of West Hollywood. I didn't intend to speak, but I felt compelled to by Councilmember Erickson's veiled reference to my campaign. Look, I don't need to make the Fountain Avenue bike lanes an issue because they have been ever since you chose to prioritize the voice of your self-professed buddy, Michael Schneider from Streets for All, rather than listening to the residents you were elected to represent. I told you in October 2025 that this fight was not over, and I intend to follow through. We'll be hosting an event in August to allow the opportunity to residents to rally about their perspective on Fountain Avenue, to make their voice heard since they were not listened to in a genuine manner as part of the city's process. You
Excuse me, Kyle.
Sorry, yeah.
Council member. Thank you.
Thank you. You referenced AI slop. There are multiple reports issued by the City of Los Angeles, issued by the City of Culver City, that speak to the data that I've referenced. I've built a career in finance and operations where you have to deliver results and you look at data to figure out whether you've actually delivered on the promises you've made. Rather than replicating mistakes, I think we need to learn from them. What happened? In Culver City, roughly 70% of people think separated bike lanes are a good thing and improve safety for cyclists. At the same time, 61% can realize that that project has had a net negative impact on the residents, 60% oppose it, and 40% would scrap it altogether. Candidates running in Culver City have been cautioned not to talk about Move Culver City because they know it's unpopular. We hear people running for WeHo City Council, you'll hear them talk about street safety. What you won't hear them say is Fountain Avenue, because we know people support street safety, and at the same time, those very same people can recognize when bad planning takes a concept that we all support and skews it into a mistake. So again, I would say, let's stay rooted in data, but I will not apologize for supporting the voice of residents who have been unheard until now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll now turn to council member comments and meeting attendance reports.
Happy to go first.
Thank you.
Thank you. I attended Ciclavia, the Beverly Hills City Council installation, the multiple Contract Cities board meetings, and the LEO conference and events. I want to thank my colleagues for item F4 regarding the blue slip, especially my neighbor Terry, who also lives on Fountain, who I've pulled people from cars from, for this suggestion about how they pull people over who might have autism or other learning disabilities and ways in which law enforcement can better partner with them. Additionally, I'm really happy to see that we're moving forward with a lot more RSO protections and what's important so we can make sure that people and our tenants are being protected. Additionally, I want to thank the mayor, the vice mayor, our city staff, public safety personnel, and everyone for the LADWP breach and water main breach. It was quite horrific to wake up to a lot of texts and wonder what actually happened, and then after finally gaining my bearings, understanding fully what was going on. Thank you, Dimitri, for your kindness and for what you've been doing for the community, and Todd, who I texted, who owns Dialogue. It's great to see that you're getting a lot of support. Please let us know what you need. Happy belated birthday to Mayor Heilman. I believe his birthday was yesterday, and he hates it when we talk about his birthday, so we're going to talk about it publicly. There's cake in the back if people want some. Happy early birthday to Larissa Fuchs. And additionally, I love the fact that we want to make sure that we're not prioritizing certain things. I never called your campaign out, Kyle, but you took the bait, so congratulations, and thank you for being that person that did so.
Thank you. Councilmember Byers.
Sure thing. Meeting attendance. I attended the National League of Cities summer board meeting as part of my role as the vice chair of the Transportation and Infrastructure Services Policy Committee. It was held in Louisville, Kentucky, and I had an opportunity to tour some incredible infrastructure projects, including the Ohio River Lock System, not something we get to think about here in West Hollywood, but the 5-point pedestrian bridge and protected cycling. We also set the agenda for our November meeting, and just got to experience the wonders of National League of Cities. It was the same day that the Road to Housing Bill, the federal housing bill, went into law. So it was really fun to be with that group of folks from all across the country who've been doing such great land use advocacy. Attended the Beverly Hills Council installation and the SCAG CEHD Policy Committee and Regional Council meetings. As far as my comments, just want to appreciate all the crews, including our own city staff, who've been working to repair the break. Just feeling so much for the residents who've been so impacted, who didn't expect to wake up that Thursday and have a lot of differences in their lives that they would have to be navigating. But I really appreciate all the folks who've been helping on the ground. It's really a moment that you see the best of our community come together, and I appreciate so many people who've reached out with concerns for others, text about how to help and what to do, and I think the best thing that we can do is stay out of the impacted area as much as possible, especially with those cars. We'll continue to try to navigate the traffic as this comes together. Ciclavia was a fabulous event. I'm really grateful that we're able to push forward with it. It was the last Ciclavia of this year because Metro isn't funding any more of these great open street events. There's a big opportunity this Thursday to advocate for more of these fabulous events that we know are such difference makers in our region, and we should do so we can have more of them together. Want to just flag for our staff, probably could have done this through an email, but we'll save an email. I learned that the shopping center at the Gateway, this is something I wouldn't experience without a car, but there is somebody brought up signage and the parking, and apparently there's a new system to pay. There's no ability to take cash anymore, and I think that's a no-no in our city, a violation of law, we would say. It's a QR code system only, and you have to go online, set up an account, enter your credit card. It just sounds complicated even if you have a credit card. So I'm curious about how that's causing extra parking issues because people just get to a system they don't want to play ball with, or maybe can't because they expected to be able to pay with cash and are bouncing out. So just wanted to flag that as we're thinking about the signage in that area and the tow zone and all the other things. And then just big shout out to IT. You've been pulling a lot of extra weight tonight, helping with our systems. Thanks always to the IT crew for making these meetings run smoothly. Thanks. See you next month.
Thank you. Councilmember Meister.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Well, first I wanted to read into the record, or for those people who weren't aware of the recommendation 4 on item F3, how it was amended. And one of the reasons it was amended was because when we wrote this staff report, the Planning Commission had not met yet, so I didn't know that the conversation would take place about very high fire hazard severity zones, but it did, so I was able to to revise it to read, because an area of the city has now been designated very high fire hazard severity zone, direct community development department to pay special attention and study whether special considerations, zoning protections, and/or exemptions should be in place when drafting zoning regulations applicable to the VHFSZ. So that was the change there. In terms of attendance, I attended the free document shredding, which is a very cathartic event, Bubbles and Beaches Chamber event, where we got to meet some small businesses that we might not normally meet in one place, and also Ciclavia. And that's always a fun event for our community. I also want to thank our city manager and staff for all their work over this past week. This was, very devastating event for many of our residents, and frightening to even watch on TV. It looked like something out of a Steven Spielberg movie, and it still does, because as LADWP works on the pipe and deals with pressure rising and all of those things, little leaks come up in different places. So they have to take care of those as well before they'll be able to finish up this work. But I am impressed with their proactive work in terms of communications with our residents and our businesses, and as well as our staff, of course, and our mayor and vice mayor, who kept people in the loop constantly over these past few days. So thank all of you for all of your hard work. Really appreciate it. I should have asked this at the city manager's report, but if anyone knows what's happening at the French Market, I know that there is an interest. Apparently, it looks like things are happening there after years of being boarded up. And I know that inquiring minds would love to know. So if we can maybe get that at some point. And that is it for me.
Great. Vice Mayor Hang.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended various events across the city. I also recently attended the AAPI Lead Conference. And I wanted to focus my comments on the situation that occurred regarding the water main break. I wanted to commend our city staff, the executive team, the city manager, the assistant city manager, director of public works, director of community safety, director of communications, and so forth down the line. The morning of the water main break, I was dead asleep at 4. I received a phone call from a community member. I immediately contacted our city manager, our director of public works, and our director of community safety. The city manager woke up at 5, mobilized for the executive team, and reached the site in the morning. This was probably at 5:30 or 6 a.m. in the morning. And she worked very hard around the clock. The executive leadership team hardly slept the entire weekend. I checked in with them on Sunday for a 2-hour briefing. I went to City Hall, and I want to actually also thank our mayor. The mayor and I went to the site the morning of the water main break. The both of us met with residents that were greatly impacted by this. Some lost their cars. A couple of residents invited the mayor and I into their homes, where we stood in 5 inches of mud and water in people's living rooms and saw mud and dirt in people's refrigerators. Like, their unit is pretty much uninhabitable and gone. But our mayor was out there to provide resources and comfort our residents along with our staff. And the one thing that I will say about this situation is that of the many people that I met the morning of the incident that were greatly impacted, none of them really seemed to be upset. They were more concerned about their neighbors, getting them the appropriate resources. My neighbor upstairs is of a certain age and may not be able to breathe without her breathing apparatus since there's no power. What can we do? So I want to thank the West Hollywood community members for working together to care for one another during this horrific incident. And I'm glad that nobody was seriously injured and no one died, but it's just a testament to our will as a city, to our will as a community to work together to protect one another. And Again, I also want to thank, the city manager again. She has been working tirelessly, working with LADWP, who did take responsibility for it. And initially, they weren't going to issue any hotel vouchers out. The city manager's persistency got them to issue 80 hotel vouchers out to impacted residents to stay in one of our hotels. And I would be remiss to say, I want to recognize our hotel industry here as well. Because when this situation had first transpired, the assistant city manager and the city manager called all of our stakeholder hotels here that offered deep discounts to residents before any hotel vouchers were issued. So that was all just incredible work from our city executive leadership team. So I wanted to give kudos and to all of the residents that are out there. The city is working very hard to provide resources for you. Our emails are always open. You have my number. I gave out my business card a lot that day. So give me a call, and we will get through this together as a community. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you as well, Vice Mayor Hang, in fact, the entire council for their response, as well as our executive team. I wanted to make an announcement. There is a missing person, Warren Raymond McKay, age 71, last seen on Poinsettia. He is apparently dependent on medication, and so there's a great deal of concern. You can get the Nixle report. There's an image you can see, but I would want to just want to make sure everyone in the community is aware. If they do see somebody who may look like they're disoriented, it may be Mr. McKay, and please call the sheriff or call our outreach team. I just wanted to also update people. We got an update during the council meeting on the repairs, and apparently LADWP has completed the pressurizing, which is very good. That's the first step to getting that street reopened. They will now have to pump the new line full of chlorine to make sure everything is clean, and then they have to do testing. That is going to take at least 16 hours. But after that, if all goes well, they will be able to do the backfill and start getting the street repaved and reopened. I wanted to report on some more mundane issues. I attended the budget subcommittee. I also attended the small business task force meeting, the opening of Sweetwater. I met with various foreign governments and their delegations, largely the result of the vice mayor's work trying to bring various foreign visitors to our city for the Olympics. So we had several very positive meetings, and we have more planned. I attended the opening of Christian's Wine Bar on Sunset, as well as Ciclavia. And with that, I think, again, thank you to everyone, but I think Jackie has an update as well.
I just want to clarify. I want to acknowledge that Laura Byrie, our Director of Economic Development, was the one calling all the hotels and getting all that information. So thank you, Laura. But we will have an update from DWP. We have a briefing at 8 o'clock in the morning, and hopefully we have even better news to report.
Thank you, Laura. And I also want to recognize the city clerk, because she mobilized her team to meet with JPIA to produce a how-to sheet for residents to file claims with LADWP. When that should have been LADWP's job to do, to outreach to the residents, you and your team stepped up to the plate and did what we normally do here, take care of our residents. So thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.
If there was 2 of them, they would be wobbly, but 3 of them hold. And I think in a situation we're being separated from one another, and we think that it's us or them or me or that, or society somehow limiting, or we don't live in abundance. I think that's the danger of it. That's when we actually fall. We need community. And it's important to have events like this because we get to have our collectives and our sisters